We will start in 1 minute. On commence en 1 minute. All right, good morning, everyone. We'll begin our Transit Commission meeting for Thursday, May 11th. We acknowledge that Ottawa is located on unceded territory of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe Nation, whose culture and presence have nurtured and continue to nurture this land. Il est important de souligner que la ville d'Ottawa se trouve sur un territoire non cédé de la nation algonquine Anishinaabe.
It is important to mention that Ottawa is on a unceded traditional territory of the Anishinaabe.
We have regrets today from Councillor Carr. Eric, can you do a roll call, please?
Councillor Brockington.
Here with a 10:30 departure.
Okay.
Councillor Carr. Councillor Hill.
Present.
Councillor Leeper. Councillor Lowe.
Here.
Councillor Menard. Councillor Tierney.
Here.
Vice Chair Curry.
Here.
Chair Gower.
Here.
You have quorum, Chair.
Thank you, Eric. Are there any declarations of interest this morning? I'm seeing none. Can we get confirmation of the minutes? These are the minutes for April 13th, 2023. Are the minutes confirmed? Confirmed. Thank you. We have a response to an inquiry, urban rural Paratranspo service, an inquiry from Councillor Lowe. Any requests to lift that item? We're good. Okay, thank you. I'll go through the agenda. Actually, I think all but one of the items have either a speaker or a presentation. But there's one item that we may, well, we'll see. We'll go through and see if we can look after these through the consent agenda. On item 5.1, we have the OC Transpo update. There's a presentation and a speaker for that, so we'll definitely hold that. Item 6.1 is the Transit Operating and Capital Budget Q1 status report. There are no speakers and no presentation. Do any members wish to hold that for questions for staff? I'm seeing none. Okay, so is that report received? Received, thank you.
Received.
On item number 7.1 is the zero-emission bus pilot performance and evaluation. We have no presentation, but we do have a speaker, so we'll hold that. Item 7.2 is communicating real-time information to customers. We do have a presentation and we also have a speaker, so we'll hold that item. All right, so back to the beginning then. 5.1 is OC Transpo update for rail, bus, and Paratranspo. We have Renee and a number of members of her team here. So Renee, over to you. Welcome.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Bonjour à tous. Ça me fait plaisir d'être ici comme toujours. So we have
Hello, everyone.
projects and reports update to you today. So let's get started. We can start the sharing, please. Next slide, please. As you know, we have ambitious recruitment goals for 2023, and we have plans to hire over 500 new staff members, including bus operators, customer service representatives, special constables, licensed mechanics, and more. To help spread the word and encourage people to apply, our recruitment team will be hosting the first ever transit job fair and roadshow later this month. This 4-day event will begin with the Transit Job Roadshow from May 24th to 26th, followed by a job fair on May 27th. At the roadshow, the recruitment team will have a booth at various stations and times, and will share information with transit customers and job seekers about recruitment, about current job openings at Transpo. The transit job fair on May 27th will be a larger scale event at Greenboro Station from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. The recruitment team will be available to connect with attendees about current job openings and will provide interview tips and walk through how to fill out online applications. Current employees will also be on site to speak firsthand about what they do and why they love working at Transpo. We will be promoting the transit job fair and roadshow through our customer communication platforms, including octranspo.com, social media, transit information screens at stations, and a public service announcement. I will also be sending a promotional package to council members in the coming days to help us promote this important initiative. A big thank you goes out to our amazing recruitment team under the leadership of Olivia Miguenti for their hard work in organizing this event. As approved as part of the 2023 budget beginning July 1st, Transpo service will be free for children 12 years of age and under. This expands on the current policy of offering free service to children 7 years of age and under. When this change comes into effect, children 12 and under will be able to board a bus without showing any fare card or proof of age. At all train stations, children will be able to enter a fare gate along with a paying customer by following closely behind them through one of the wide accessible fare gates. Although proof of age will not be required, parents can, if they wish, take their children to obtain a child photo ID card from the Transpo Customer Service Center at the Rideau Center. This card can be tapped at fare gates and on buses and will allow children to enter easily. This change will be branded with a fun and appealing name to encourage a younger audience, our future customers. More information will be provided to customers in advance of the change. As noted in a council memo on April 12th, over the past 2 weekends, there was a partial closure of Ocean Line 1 along Rideau Transit Group, an opportunity to assess the scope of required repairs to prevent water infiltration in sections of the tunnel. Based on the successful investigations, Rideau Transit Group prepared a remediation plan. During the May 6th and 7th weekend, crews worked to seal construction joints and pumped grout beyond the concrete tunnel walls east of Rideau. That same weekend, more investigations took place on different sections of the tunnel that confirmed that further grouting is required in June. We will advise council and the public once dates for the planned maintenance and associated service adjustment are confirmed. As I noted in a memo to council on May 1st, Transpo launched the Transpo Helps and Transpo Ed Twitter accounts to replace the Transpo Live, Transpo Direct Twitter accounts. These new customer service focused Twitter accounts are managed by customer service representatives who will quickly respond to customer inquiries and provide support. Passengers are able to access information about their specific bus trips by signing up for my alerts, text, or email service, and canceled trips are also published to my alerts webpage on octranspo.com. This update to Transpo's Twitter presence is also a component of a plan to improve communications with customers, and further enhancements can be expected in the future. These improvements will complement ongoing work to upgrade real-time data information for customers, which you will hear about in a presentation today. In a moment, I will pass things over to Scott Laberge, Associate Director of Transit Customer Services and Planning, to speak about recent customer and resident surveys. However, I wanted to take a moment to introduce this topic to you. Since I arrived at OC Transpo, I have always said that the public trust is extremely important to me. I know that it is also important to all of you. I'm very pleased that we are taking one of many steps in building the trust of our customers in their transit system. The only way we can do that is by taking a quantitative pulse of our customers and learning more about how they feel and how they see us. It is extremely important that we start this process so that we can measure the effectiveness of our KPIs to the people who matter the most. We are introducing a new survey process that will regularly measure our customers' sentiments. As you will learn over time, we will build this network of respondents so that we have a reliable base upon which we can determine our growth, our communications, and our improvement. The information Scott will present represents the beginning. This is the foundations. This is day one. We have a lot of room to grow, and these surveys will help us to determine how. Next slide, please. Over to you, Scott.
Merci René. Bonjour, Monsieur le Président et le Conseiller. Je suis Scott Laberge, Director Adjoint.
My name is Claude Laberge, Deputy Director at OC Transpo. In the following slides, we'll look what we're doing with clients.
4 customer surveys with 2 now complete that we await data. A 3rd complete with data reported, and a 4th survey ongoing until the end of this month. The current open survey regarding the bus route review has already received more than 3,400 responses. It will remain open until the end of this month, and we encourage residents to please participate. A regional origin destination all-mode travel survey was conducted by our colleagues in planning real estate economic development in the fall of 2022. Information gathered in this survey was used as input to the Transportation Master Plan. We look forward to receiving this data to better understand where and by which mode residents are traveling within Ottawa. Just recently, through our international benchmarking groups, we participated in both bus and rail surveys. These results will be collated, reported, and compared with survey results from transit agencies worldwide. The 4th survey, now complete and data reported, is the Transit Attitudes Telephone Survey that was completed by national research firm Nanos Research in April. We'll look closer at the results and next steps for this survey on the next slides. Next slides, please. The Transit Attitude Telephone Survey collected responses from 2,029 Ottawa residents, of whom 1,535 are OC Transpo customers. The survey explored customers' happiness with the services offered by OC Transpo. 35% of customers reported being happy or somewhat happy with the services offered by OC Transpo. Most of these customers reported fast, reliable, and good service. 24% of respondents were indifferent, reporting neither happy nor unhappy with OC Transpo services. 42% of customers reported being unhappy or somewhat unhappy with the service. Most of these customers reported wait times, delays, and cancellations as the main cause of their unhappiness. The good news here is that, as you've heard, these are all areas where we have a focused plan to improve. Next slide, please. As Madame Amilcar mentioned, these transit attitude surveys results will serve as our foundation. OC Transpo is managing and improving service by analyzing data and using key performance indicators to track progress. The Transit Attitude Survey will be repeated in detail every 3 months, collecting responses over time to draw connections between customer feedback and changes in policy, services, or the environment. Using this survey, we'll also be able to identify a subset of customer respondents for future online surveys specific to the customer experience. Next slide, please. Dans le graphique suivant, nous examinerons les indicateurs de performance.
In the next slide, you will look at the performance indicators for 2023.
Paratranspo on-time customer pickup performance was 94% in March. This is the percentage of customers picked up on time during their 30-minute pickup window. On-time performance increased slightly from last month, even with the increased ridership levels above the budgetary ridership profile. Next slide, please. Here we see the amount of time that someone has needed to wait on average when calling to book a Paratranspo trip. Down from March 2023, Paratranspo's telephone booking line response times were 3 minutes and 8 seconds. The amount of time that a customer waits to speak with a customer service agent sits well below our threshold response time of 15 minutes. Next slide, please. Paratranspo continues to see steady increases in bookings by phone and online. In March, Paratranspo saw its highest number of bookings in the last year with 87,400 trip reservations made through the customer center and online. The primary method for booking continues to be by telephone, with 92% of trips booked over the phone. Online bookings increased slightly during the month of March, with 8% of reservations made online with My Paratranspo. These are represented here as the orange portion of the bar chart. We continue to educate and encourage customers to use our online booking tool. Next slide, please. On this chart, you see Paratranspo ridership monthly totals in 1,000 customer trips. The red line represents 2019 pre-pandemic conditions. The gray line is the 2023 estimated budgetary Paratranspo ridership profile. The gray colored bars are the 2022 monthly ridership data for comparison, and the black bar is the March 2023 Paratranspo ridership. We continue to see strong ridership recovery month over month, with March being our highest month since the onset of the pandemic. In March 2023, Paratranspo ridership exceeded the budgetary ridership profile at 66,200 trips, resulting in a ridership recovery of 82% compared to pre-pandemic conditions in March of 2019. Next slide, please. Up slightly from February, feedback from Paratranspo customers averaged 2.2 complaints per 1,000 trips. We continue to experience service delivery feedback. The dark blue portion held relatively steady. In March, we received a slight increase in calls related to booking, the orange bar, and booking and information, the orange bar, and fares, which represented by the gray bar. Next slide, please. This slide shows Paratranspo fare revenue that is tracking the same way as ridership. Paratranspo generated $172,900 in fare revenue in March 2023, slightly below what was forecasted in the 2023 budget. So at the end of the Paratranspo section, I'll now hand over to my colleague David Barkley, Associate Director, Transit Service Delivery and Rail Operations, to share the conventional bus and O-Train performance indicators.
Thank you, Scott, and good morning, Chair and members of Commission. This slide, next slide, please. This slide here represents O-Train Line 1 service delivery, including April. On the slide today, you will notice that we've added in the bottom corner a chart showing unplanned R1 service with the cause such as power loss, freezing rain events, and overhead catenary system issues back to through this chart. So for the beginning of this year. If we remove the freezing rain events shown here, there have been many months with strong reliability. We continue to see improved reliability on a day-to-day and a month-to-month basis. Plus la ligne à plat plus la fiabilité est constante pour nos clients.
More we work, more the service becomes more reliable. We are following the trends days after days and month after month.
Now here we look at the conventional bus service delivery and our service delivery in April. It's sat at 98%. Over the last number of months, we've been experiencing a positive trend in our service delivery, largely as a result of our continued efforts to stabilize service. Service delivery is improving and remaining high. However, we know that there is more work to do to achieve our target of 99.5%. The service fourni simulé est demeure élevé, mais nous
So it's still very high right now, but we know that we'll still have to work to reach our objective of 99.5% service improvement.
We're going to show you a breakout of the items that impact our target in a bit more detail. Dans le diagramme suivant, nous détaillons un peu plus en détail.
On the next slide, you will have the detailed information about the impact on our objectives. We want to reach a 99.5% reliability of service.
So on this slide, we're showing you March data, and it shows for what impacted us reaching our goal of 99.5% service reliability for bus service. What you see here in March, we were at 98% service delivery. That was impacted by three main items that we've discussed previously. Operator shortages. This is so we can ensure all buses are on street and running their schedules. On-street adjustments, essentially the impact of increases in traffic that we see on the streets, and mechanical breakdown with our seasonal changes and fluctuations has an impact on the operation of our buses. To reach our goal of 99.5%, we've implemented a number of items for 2023 to address these three items. They are staffing of new operators, our target of 360 new operators this year. The next class will be graduating the 15th of May. In addition, we have a number of additional operator classes to carry out this year to ensure that we reach our target. Adding in runtime to a schedule, this is happening as part of the current booking, and this helps adjust our schedules for the increase in traffic and that has been noticed across the city. Staff continue to increase fleet reliability through implementing the planned maintenance programs and work that the new engineering unit has been carrying out in relation to reviewing trends and finding solutions to issues as they're identified. As requested, added this month to this slide is the routes with the most trips not delivered. To note, the routes of O-Train Line 2 replacement buses, number 15 and number 85 shown here are also the routes that have the most trips per day with highest frequency. The control center monitors various items when making decisions on a cancellation to a route to minimize the impact on customers. Based on what we are seeing, we are continuously improving and achieving the 99.5% regularly now. Next slide, please. This slide, we're now looking at ridership. With respect to ridership, on the O-Train and conventional bus, we have seen a consistent improving trend over the last year. Nous examinons maintenant l'assemblage et en ce qui concerne l'assemblage.
This is a ridership for Line 1 and conventional buses. We see that the trends is going up since the beginning of the year.
Remained below pre-pandemic levels. The line about red line along the top of this graph, and just below that, you will see the black line. That's the estimated budgeted ridership. We can see in month over month the ridership is improving, reaching 6 million customers in the trips, customer trips in March. A significant increase compared to the 4.4 million customer trips the same time last year. Next slide, please. Here we look at fare revenue. With respect to O-Train and bus fare revenue, we have observed a similar trend to ridership. Month over month, there's been an increase in fare revenues. Fare revenue for the month of March reached $11.9 million, an increase over February of 2023. Right now, I'll turn it over and to our Deputy Chief Safety Officer, Mr. Dwayne Duquette.
Thank you. Next slide, please. Bonjour, Monsieur le Président et membres de la Commission.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dwayne Duquette. I'm the Deputy Chief Security Officer.
We have chosen to focus my presentation today on employee injuries and assaults, as it's an area of concern internally And as I understand it, it's also a subject the Transit Commission would like more information on. Before we get into the information on assaults, I will update you on employee and customer injuries. If we look at the graphic at the top left, that highlights the employee injuries as well as those incurred by customers. Year to date, and this is up to and including March, we have a total of 210 reported employee injuries and a customer injury rate of 1.13 per million trips. Although we find these metrics useful and we monitor them, any data analysis used to predict the year is imperfect due to the external factors, particularly the variability of weather in Ottawa. This plays a significant role in the final outcome. The more accurate comparison is, of course, the year-to-year data. Next, on the bottom left is a graph labeled 2022 Employee Occurrence Reports. This information was previously shared with Transit Commission, but as a reminder, there was a total of 740 employee injuries last year. The top three categories are struck/caught, overexertion, and assault. Today, I'd like to give you a little bit more information on the highlighted category, which is assaults. The table in the top right of the slide gives us a more granular look at the location of the assaults as they relate to operators. For this table, we have focused on the operators as this is the largest workforce in OC Transpo. I'd like to first clarify the term assaults being presented. Assaults, as they're presented here, may differ from other sources as it's more all-encompassing. We follow the WSIB classification of assaults that includes physical assaults. This is what most people associate with the term, but it also includes verbal abuse, aggressive customers, harassment, non-criminal, and inappropriate behavior. In 2022, there were 49 reported assaults to bus operators. Of the 49, 40 occurred on the bus, and 36 of these were while the operator was in the seat. With the operator barrier, but they are set to begin retirement in July. The operator barriers have had a direct impact not only on the frequency, but also the severity of the assaults as they limit a person's ability to contact the operator. All operators are also trained not to leave their seat while dealing with a situation that could escalate. I can also share that all 49 of the assaults in 2022 were in the no injury or minor injury category. And when we look at the data from the last 5 years, we see a downward trend culminating in this achievement, which is the first in recent history. Finally, I will share that over the last 3 years, we have seen data that shows a clear upward trend in how many assaults the operator barriers have prevented, which is exactly what we wanted to see. Now I'll turn it over and introduce our Chief of Special Constables, Chief Tracy McCrae.
Thank you, Dwayne. Good morning, Chair and members of the Transit Commission. Je vous remercie pour l'opportunité pour faire une présentation.
Thank you very much for giving me the time to do this presentation about the special agents within OC Transpo.
And I'm so pleased to be here today to talk to you about OC Transpo's Special Constable Unit. Next slide, please. Next. I would like to share a little bit about myself and the experience that I bring with me to OC Transpo. I began as chief of the Special Constable Unit in November 2022. I bring to the unit 20 years of policing experience, serving 18 of those with the Ottawa Police Service, followed by a representation for the Canadian Transport Security Authority as the National Security Advisor and Police Liaison, where I carried oversight of all investigations within 89 airports while collaborating with police services all over the country. When the opportunity for this position presented itself, I knew this is where I wanted to be. From my first day, returning to the city of Ottawa and law enforcement has truly felt like coming home. Working for OC Transpo has been a rewarding experience so far, and I'm excited about where the Special Constable Unit is headed in the future. Next slide, please. Who are we and what do we do is a question that I'm often asked. The Special Constable Unit, commonly referred to as SCU, is a customer service focused unit We are dedicated to ensuring the safety of transit customers, employees, and assets. We are responsible for all physical security on, in, or in relation to OC Transpo properties. The SCU began as a security department in 1975 and transitioned to sworn peace officers under a memorandum of understanding with the Ottawa Police Service on April 1st, 2007. We have received specialized training that allows us to carry use of force options such as handcuffs, pepper spray, and batons. Becoming sworn peace officers brought with it the ability to manage calls for service pertaining to various municipal, provincial, and federally legislated acts, including the criminal code. As you will see shortly, the SCU responded to 20,377 calls for service in 2022. Prior to becoming sworn peace officers, we had no legal ability to attend, investigate, charge, or attend court proceedings pertaining to offenses on the transit system. This has definitely changed the way we are able to function and ensure the public safety on our transit system. We currently have 34 special constables, 5 sergeants, 3 superintendents, 1 deputy chief, and myself as chief. We also have a communications center that holds 1 sergeant and 11 communications center staff. We accomplish our mandate with 24/7 shift coverage in a variety of ways, including mobile patrol, foot patrol, and on bicycles when the weather's warm enough. We attend calls for service, investigate incidents, and assist everyone, including the vulnerable community members. Next slide, please. You'll see in that picture, that's actually our communications center. The SCU Communications Center is situated within the Transit Operations Communications Center, and it is a critical part of accomplishing our mandate. This section of our unit is the first point of contact for all calls for service. They ensure the efficient response of our special constables and provide additional safety and security through the use of closed circuit television, commonly known as CCTV. I feel it is the nucleus that keeps all parties informed and ensures quick action is taken during emergency situations. The comm center is taken up with 3 positions. So we have 1 sergeant within the communication center. We have call takers who manage all calls from the public and transit staff, as well as calls made through emergency call boxes and pay phones. Dispatchers are those who dispatch or task special constables to various locations and request emergency services when required. CCTV operators is another piece of our communication center. They are the security camera operators. These staff members constantly monitor feeds from stations, buses, park and rides, and OC Transpo buildings. And they flag anything unusual to the dispatch team. Next slide, please. So quick summary, moving us over to our mandates and values. Our mandates include everything from protecting customers, employees, and property to promote public safety and awareness. Our values begin with adhering to the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, to being approachable, courteous, and open, and maintaining the highest ethical and professional standards. Next slide, please. How do we get to be on the road? And how do we get to be completely trained special constables? All special constable recruits must have the same qualifications as a police officer. I'll start off by saying it's a rigorous recruitment process. We take this extremely seriously because we want only the best candidates for this safety critical position. Our process consists of a variety of things, including education and security experience, behavioral interview, physical fitness test, psychological assessment, background investigation, and a criminal records and reference check. Following this thorough recruitment process, the successful candidates go through a 7-week in-class training program, followed by 4 months on the road with a coach officer. Some of the subjects that are covered during their training include Canadian law, Charter of Rights and Freedoms, use of force, which is instructed by the Ottawa Police Service, first aid, diversity awareness, and incident management. Also included in a very important part of our training is mental health training, understanding, assessing, and apprehending individuals for their own safety and the safety of others. We have also included a component on Indigenous studies called The Path, Indigenous, Inuit, and Aboriginal Perspective. Once established in their roles, continuous education and professional development is offered throughout their tenure. We continue our training through the Ontario Police College with things such as investigative interviewing, frontline supervising, criminal investigations, becoming a coach officer, and the list goes on with a variety of opportunities for professional development. Next slide. I'd like to touch on our KPIs for 2022. Our calls for service, which are proactive, high visibility patrols at key locations and coordinated enforcement activities. You'll see, as I mentioned earlier, we attended 20,377 calls for service in 2022. We have laid 124 criminal charges. When I speak of criminal charges, that can mean anything from a theft to an assault to more severe offenses. Provincial offenses notices, we served 143. Examples of those would be prohibited activities on property or trespass to property. And bylaw charges of 29 being loitering, smoking infractions, and fare infractions. One I'd like to highlight is our medical calls, 662 in 2022, with 48 naloxone revivals. We have advanced medical training that allows us to administer naloxone. We also have trauma training where we can institute oxygen management, nasal intubations, crash kits, which allows us the opportunity to experience more saving lives than the other way. Next slide. Special Constable Unit has many partnerships in many different areas, internally and externally within the city. Take you through these slides, and to touch on some of these is the heading of requirement. The Memorandum of Understanding with the Ottawa Police Service is what dictates parameters of administration and requirements for Special Constable status and operations. Our response, we respond to numerous calls of service that would otherwise fall to the Ottawa Police Service, reducing the demand on them having us available. We also work in tandem with the Ottawa Police Service, whether it's a parallel to investigation, information sharing, case handoff, or we require specialty units to attend our calls for service, such as the identification unit, for example, when we require photos at a scene. Our patrols, as I spoke to earlier, provide a variety of methods that I mentioned above. The assistance is a really big part of the customer service and customer facing piece that we are as a Special Constable Unit. We sit on a committee, particularly of the Unsheltered Task Force, which finds solutions for addressing homelessness in the community, including on the transit system. We collaborate internally and externally on various committee memberships. And the SCU currently sits on 48 committees, both internally and externally. Next slide. I'd like to say thank you for the few minutes that you've given me today. Since becoming chief and over the past 6 months, I've welcomed the opportunity to observe and learn about the Special Constable Unit and its operations. While I'm proud of our team and the excellent work they've accomplished each day, we are focusing on ways to augment our operational capabilities, including increasing visibility and working collaboratively with our partnering stakeholders to address current issues. The management team have established a renewed focus on the professional development accompanied with the succession planning of our staff. With this, we are establishing a stronger foundation that will carry the SCU successfully into the future. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Lene, Scott, David, Dwayne, and Tracy for the presentation today. We have one speaker who's registered for today, John Reddens. So we'll just take a moment to bring John into the Zoom room here, and then we'll go to questions from councillors for our staff. John, are you with us?
Sure. Took me a while, but I got in.
Yep, we can see you and we can hear you. Good morning, John.
Morning. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for meeting with me last week. This week, back in 2017, two pair of colleagues and myself met with OC Transpo Management to improve our booking system. It's nice to see that it created a push to get the online booking system. And we see the results of it there this morning. Since then, we've been together and pushing for transit equity. Fares as a form of transit equity. And yesterday, City Council voted in favor of a nightmare. Does Paratranspo customers have a nightlife in Ottawa? So many roadblocks in our city to treat us with equity, including my favorite, it's a budget item. Millions in the court case. Supervising for LRT and regular transit. Response to the LRT and hiring an outside source. Who is paying? City Council told me I can be brutally honest sometimes, but I'm going to be politically correct and not say anything. Who is paying for the lost revenue in tunnels, and how much estimate are we losing? Is P3 paying for this? No survey for Paratranspo. Trust. I had one constituent of one of the commissioners here in tears. I saw her at an event. She suffered significant bruising and go over bumps. His office was told certain bus will be taken off the road at a certain date. It showed up to her residence a week after the date was promised. You talk about trust. Where is that? Where is that in that example? Safety audits on evacuating plans on LRT. Have you invited your critics to take part in these audits with people with disabilities, or do you bring friendly allies? I think it would help with some of the trust issues on the LRT for people with disabilities. Again, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, John. Also, well, I should check. Are there any questions for John from committee members? I should mention, I understand the Ottawa Transit Riders are organizing a session coming up later this spring that they're going to be reaching out to councillors with an invite. So it'll be here at City Hall. So just think that the date and time are being finalized on that, but watch for that coming soon. And John, it was good to speak with you last week. And good to see you today. I think you may be back for another one of the items today too.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope it's good news.
Okay, thank you, John.
Right. Thanks.
Okay, we'll move to questions for staff. Councillor Brockington, you're the first hand up.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning to you and colleagues. Thank you, Madame Amica, for a very detailed presentation. I just want to say again how important this type of presentation is for transit commissioners and the public. Thank you for the details. In particular, I want to provide a shout out to the reliability data, where we're getting into the causes for some of the challenges for reliable service. I think these details are very important. This is the type of details the Transit Commission needs to hear. And obviously, at the end of the day, see the plan to address some of those chronic reliability issues. So thank you for that detail. And thank you for acknowledging Route 85, which is a very challenged route that travels along Carling, serves many wards, including in River Ward. This route is consistently unreliable and need to see a greater plan and effort to improve reliability on this run. I just have a few questions. One is, it is very good to see, I think for the first month since COVID started, that the actual ridership levels in March matched the budget estimate, meaning we estimated to serve 6 million passengers, and we actually realized that for the first month since COVID started. So that's very, very good. But when I look at the financial or fare revenue data for that same month, we realized 11.9 million, but we budgeted 13.2 million. So although we served the number of passengers we budgeted for, our revenues were not equal. And I just wanted to get a greater explanation that if we're serving the number of people we were expecting, why our revenues are not matching the costs, or sorry, what we budgeted for. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, for the question. I will turn over to Pat, who will share the information with us.
Thank you, Renee. Mr. Chair, the mixture of who rides the system can vary from time to time, whether they are people who are eligible to travel with a discounted fare or whether they're travel with a full fare. Also, those customers, some customers, when they're traveling, can choose which fare product to use, whether they purchase a monthly pass, a day pass, or a single day pass. And that varies from month to month. We can see what the change has been, but we have to dig further to understand what's behind that change. And are we carrying more? For instance, we might be carrying more university students and fewer full fare paying adult customers. We might be carrying more customers who've purchased a discounted product and fewer who are paying a less discounted or a full fare product.
Fair enough. I guess my point is, even if we realize what we budgeted for in ridership, we could still be losing millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars over the year because of that discrepancy. Other question I have is, as I've been riding LRT more lately, particularly at stations downtown, I notice how cleanliness continues to be an issue in our stations. At Rideau Station recently, the escalator was out of service. The major door I needed to open was missing a handle. The bottom glass partition was completely shattered. The station was filthy. And I want to get a better understanding from staff about how OC Transpo holds RTG accountable for cleanliness, which continues to be an issue that the public highlights. Councillor Carr, a few months ago, went on a tour of stations and identified a number of issues within stations, including cleanliness. And I'd like to know what type of conversations, Madame Amica, you're having with them to improve in this regard.
Thank you, Chair, for the question. I agree, this is a concern. This is a huge issue for me. And I'm working with RTM, Troy Charter, who is here. I will ask him to comment where we are in the plan. So definitively, I'm looking for a plan from RTM to be able to better do our oversight And I agree again that the level of the cleanliness is not good for me. Troy, I will ask you please to share where we are with the plan.
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Member. Yeah, sort of taking a multi-pronged approach on dealing with the cleanliness aspects. As Madam Member indicated, we know it's not at the levels we expect. Right now, they are the maintainer is going through, our team is going through, and they're doing their seasonal activities. So they have a biannual cleaning program, and part of that they do the deep clean on the floors, the windows, the walls. They're going through that process right now, pressure washing windows and floors. They're starting to tackle the escalators as well, the landing plates at the top and bottom of the escalators. They're starting to tackle those as well. And then part of that seasonal cleaning campaign as well that they do biannually is looking at cracked tiles, the door handles, those types of things. They shouldn't wait for the biannual clean some of those things, but they are tackling those through the semi-annual process. Additionally, working with the new general manager over there, they had moved to a new contractor in which they were anticipating some positive results on the cleanliness that hasn't been realized. So they're doing a complete review of their daily and weekly plans, and they're submitting them to us, and that's going to help inform our oversight program moving forward. So we're taking, as I said, a multi-pronged approach. There's the seasonal deep cleans that are going on right now, updates to their daily and weekly plans, and then we're increasing our oversight on the station cleanliness aspects.
That's very good to hear. I appreciate that detailed answer, and I appreciate you and Madame Alikar acknowledging that this is an issue that is a priority for you. Thank you. My last question, Chair, before I have to go, is about the timelines to provide more information to the Commission about the most recent service disruption due to the most recent ice storm. What are the timelines to get the detailed information as to cause and efforts to ensure that this is remediated going forward?
Thank you for the question, Chair. Richard, can you maybe just share with us where we are?
Thank you, Chair, for the question. So we're working with RTM, and we are discussing this issue and receiving updates on a regular basis, but we're still waiting for the formal kind of root cause analysis. So we expect to be able to come back to Transit Commission within a couple of months with a formal report that will outline the reasons, some of the causes that contributed to the issue, and a remediation plan.
Thank you for that. A few months away seems a bit long, but I'll just park it there for now. And again, thanks to Madame Memika and her staff for the presentation today. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Leeper.
Thank you very much, Chair. So the void between the concrete and the tunnel lining, can I hear more about that? How big a void is it? Why is it there? And what does it take to repair it?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. So in terms of, I should give some background in terms of the actual tunnel construction. Maybe that's what I need to do to answer that question.
Yeah, I don't mind delving deep on this one.
In terms of the overall construction phases for the tunnel, we had a very rough excavation that created the tunnel shape initially. Shotcreting was applied to the rough surface of the hewn rock. On top of that shotcrete, a plastic liner was introduced to help with the water tightness of the tunnel. Following the lining of the tunnel with the plastic liner, concrete forms were introduced into the tunnel, and the concrete liner was cast in situ. So between the concrete liner and the plastic waterproof liner, it was anticipated that there may be some voids. And so as part of the construction process, there were grouting tubes placed at strategic places through the concrete liner. And so as part of the construction process, grout was pumped in to that gap between the concrete liner and the plastic liner. So that was always part of the process. And it was anticipated that grout would have filled all those voids. You know, what we have experienced, unfortunately, over the last couple of years is ingress of water. And part of the investigative work that was undertaken over the last couple of weekends was to determine, okay, why are we having water ingress into the tunnel? And as part of the process of the investigation, the contractor cored through the concrete liner. They did this very carefully because they did not want to damage the plastic liner. But as they cored through in strategic locations, they discovered that there were voids behind the concrete liner where the grout that had previously been applied during construction hadn't fully filled all those gaps. So through that investigation and through the planning for remedial work, there was an estimation of around 700 liters as the size of the void. I think it was 750 liters actually was what they anticipated. And so last weekend, as part of the remediation works, they were able to pump grout into that void in this isolated location. So we're talking about one location within the tunnel. And they used 710 liters of grout to fill this void. So in terms of the investigative work, it was very successful in identifying the length and the breadth and the depth of the void, because they were able to anticipate quite accurately how much grout was required.
So the void has been there since the finish of tunnel construction. Grout is not being washed away. They had pumped grout in during the construction. For some reason, the grout didn't reach this contiguous area that is equivalent to about 700 liters or so. And so you were able to identify that void, pump grout into it, and now anticipate that that void won't be a problem anymore.
There are a couple of items to consider in terms of the necessity for completing that grouting work. So one is the integrity of the overall system. So ideally we don't have voids. So there are no concerns structurally about the tunnel, but certainly there is it's going to help to fill that void with cementitious grout. So that work has been done. There is the expectation that that will reduce water ingress. But we do not know yet whether it will be 100% successful in eliminating all the water leaks in that section. So as part of this remediation work, further grout pipes were left within the tunnel wall. And if we still have issues with water ingress, we still have the ability to go back and pump more contact grout into that area. So we're in a process of remediation here. So just to respond to the two aspects of the grouting program.
How is water? So there's ground, there's a hole, shotcrete is on the walls of the hole. There's a plastic liner, then there's a concrete liner. The work that you've done is to fill a void, or on an ongoing basis to work on a void that is between the concrete and the plastic. How is water getting through the plastic liner?
Thank you for the question. I don't know a very accurate answer to that question in terms of where precisely the water can be coming in, but there's a general understanding that there must be some flaws in that plastic liner that is allowing the groundwater to leak through the plastic liner and get into that gap between the plastic liner and the tunnel.
should do we need to understand that better? Is that further investigative work that you're doing? Like, should that plastic liner be doing a more complete job of preventing the water from coming through?
Ideally, the plastic liner would have been very successful and we would not have leaks, although it is not uncommon for a tunnel of this size and this depth to experience some leaks. So we're going through, the contractor is going through a remediation process, which is expecting to seal all those leaks. But it's a case of having to identify where the leaks are occurring, sealing those leaks. There is a potential that that water may migrate to another location within the tunnel, which requires further work. So we're not at the point of being able to say we're done. This is going to be a process of remediation. I think what has been successfully demonstrated is that the contractor and their consultants have a methodical process for undertaking the investigative work, coming up with a remediation plan and executing. And that's what we've seen over the last 2 weekends of work.
So can residents expect that will there be further shutdowns as they continue to search for leaks? And are we going to have more weekend shutdowns of our LRT line?
Thank you for the question. As Madame Amilcar commented earlier on, there will be a shutdown for preventative maintenance and grinding program that is taking place in June. So during that period, there will be further grouting work that will take place. So we are aware that there will be a program in June. It is expected that there will be further work that will be required beyond June, but the timing of that at this point is uncertain.
Okay. So
just if I can just provide maybe a little more detail on the scope. So the work that was undertaken is to the east of Rideau Station. And so the focus for now and throughout June will be dealing with the leaks within the tunnel liner, and also at the construction joints between the construction sections. So that will continue in June, and the focus will be east of Rideau. We do know that there are areas of that will need to be addressed west of Rideau, but it's likely that that's going to come at a later time.
How do they find these voids? Is it just guesswork as to where you core through the concrete liner, looking for those voids?
Well, fortunately, the path of water helps to identify where the expected voids are. So we're very much focusing our efforts in those areas where water is actually leaking into the tunnel.
Okay. So somewhere in the vicinity of the leak, you can expect that there is if it is leaking somewhere in the vicinity of that, it's likely you're going to find a void, or you may find a void, and you're going to find that through coring.
And it's indicative of an issue behind the concrete liner, and so that's where the investigation starts.
Okay. Sorry, so 700 liters, I think I have a rough idea of what volume that is. What are the dimensions of that void?
I don't have that number in my head, but I can say that the actual section of concrete tunnel that was under investigation that time was approximately 15 meters long. So the void was at the crown of the tunnel.
Okay.
But in terms of the width and the depth, there'd be quite a lot of variety. We could certainly work on an average of the width and the length and the depth, but it wouldn't necessarily be indicative of what the size of the void was. It would just be an average.
Okay. Great. I know my colleagues have lots of questions. I only have one other comment question, Madame Amilcar. Nous avons parlé de le recrutement.
We talked a lot about recruiting today. Can you provide us with a dashboard that could help us with the future presentations?
And I'm sorry, I missed it. Can you just reiterate what the most recent hiring progress is? I think David may have provided the background.
I don't have it on the head of my head, but maybe my colleagues can help me. For sure, we hired almost 100 people, I think. Who can help me on that one? Yeah. Paul, are you on call?
Yes, I am. Yeah, I don't have the exact number before me, but we've had two classes of new bus operator trainees that will have graduated as of Monday next week. And the first class we graduated, gosh, I'm trying to work the numbers from my head. I apologize. I believe it was 33. And the second class that will graduate this Monday, we have a number, it's, I believe, 19 are expected to graduate. So that's a number which is almost a little over 50, I guess, 51 or so. And currently in the pipeline, we have two classes of approximately 22 in each class of new bus operators in training. And then at the end of May, we'll be starting with another class. So we have a staged and phased approach to how we're onboarding and bringing these new bus operator trainees into our training program. And so far, we've been quite successful at meeting the higher expectations that are needed to hopefully get us to 99.5% reliability in our service delivery.
So in terms of progress, and forgive me, I forget the target number this year. I think it's like 312 or something.
360.
Okay, and so are we on track?
Yes.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I'm very happy because we're following very well our plan.
Excellent. Merci beaucoup.
Okay, Councillor Lowe.
Thank you. I kind of want to build on the plastic liner comments that we were having, that we were discussing, excuse me. Given the size of the tunnel, I imagine it's not a contiguous piece of plastic. I imagine there's sections or something, right? Could there be gaps between the sections of plastic liner? Could there be kind of places where they kind of join with each other where water can go through?
Thank you for the question. That is possible. As part of the construction process, the plastic was brought in big sheets, big rolls of plastic that were then welded together on site. So certainly the intent was that they were joined in a manner that would be waterproof. But were there faults? Have there subsequently been cracks? That is possible. The challenge in terms of determining that now is that it is behind, many inches of grout and concrete.
And could this be similar? Could this be a very similar situation to why there may be leaks in some of our underground stations? Well, I was going to say Rideau and Parliament, but that's two of three.
The same process. Thank you for the question. The same process of providing a concrete liner included the cavern construction for the three underground stations as well. So it is possible.
Okay, and then the specific location, was this where that really large icicle appeared last winter? Is it roughly the same location, or is it that location?
I would have to check to give you an accurate answer to that.
Okay, that would be appreciated. Moving on to the bit about the special constables, are there any particular locations along this throughout the system, or especially along line 1, I guess, where you're responding to the most calls, or where you receive the highest volume of call requests?
Thank you, Chair, for the question. I'm just going to pull up some notes here.
Maybe I can help you in the meantime. So for sure, definitively Rideau is a challenge.
Yeah, I figured. And So what would you say you need most from commission to help you address some of those issues at radio station, especially the I'm guessing especially the William Street entrance where a lot of people tend to hang out?
First, like to thank the commission for the support that we have received to date for the unit. We are currently working to augment our staff and in an effort to address current issues in the busier stations. We are in the process of designing, also actively pursuing projects with the Ottawa Police Service focused on youth, particularly at this time. The after-school hours between 2:30 to 5:30. So we have a collaborative effort where we work directly frontline with the police service to augment our numbers, augment their numbers, share information, and ensure that we are addressing the issues that are currently at hand. For future, I do work closely with Chief Stubbs and his executive team as we move to collaborate more in the coming months and years so that there is a strong presence. We are working towards with the augment of staff of 6 officers this year, where although we are already riding the rails and present on platforms and within the stations, that we will be dedicating officers to it.
Okay, thanks. And I do appreciate the work that the SCU does. It does keep our transit customers, is that me or? Anyway, it does keep our transit users and employees and everybody that need the system safe. So I do appreciate that. Last question, second last question. I guess for Madam Amilcar about the free fare that's coming for children 12 and under, I believe. You mentioned that one of the options to access the fare gates at O Train Line 1 stations is to follow closely their parent or their accompanying passenger. I'm not, I have some concerns about that statement because like we're essentially promoting tailgating by doing that. And that is, I think, expressly something that we tell our customers not to do. Do you mind expanding on that at all for me?
Thank you, Chair. I agree with you, Councillor. Definitively, my experience in the past was, even if it was for free, we need a pass to at least to be able to calculate ridership, etc. However, I will ask Pat to maybe share information with us because there is something in Ottawa that I don't know, unfortunately.
Thanks, Madame Amilcar, Mr. Chair. As Council was considering whether to extend free fares to customers aged 12 and under, you may remember that we had provided some information of the very high fare fraud rates that some cities were seeing with millions and millions of dollars being lost because of the approach that they had taken in managing how to admit these customers. So we spoke to transit agencies around the world and followed up in more depth with 2 in Canada, one who'd had a very bad experience from issuing smart cards, where those smart cards basically became hot ticket items on the black market, and people were selling them on to other people. Even though they were registered as child cards, they were being sold over Kijiji, eBay, however, as, well, I don't really need this card, so you can have it for 80% of what it cost me, when it actually cost that person zero. They were making money, the transit system was losing. The person who was carrying the card had no idea that they had purchased a fraudulent product. We also spoke to another agency which had good experience in extending the timing on certain gates in the stations, providing specific information beside those gates about how to get through, how a family should get through that gate together, and also issue a very distinctive child card that couldn't be confused with an adult card, couldn't be sold on as a fraudulently. Well, could be, but it would be more obvious if it were. And we looked at the approaches of both. We looked at the success rates and the fraud rates of both, and we went with the one, and provided that information as the commission and council were considering whether to approve this. So we're following that method. If there's further improvements we can make, if we see that there's any particular cheating going on one way or the other, either with tailgating or with fraudulent use of child cards, we'll come back if we need policy direction from you, or if we find things we can do on our own to tighten things up a little bit. But mostly we want to make sure, as the policy direction from council, that we're welcoming these customers, that we have removed a barrier to travel for young families. And we want everyone to know that, your experience on OC Transpo doesn't require you to go through a lot of steps, that it should be as easy for customers of younger ages as it is for all of our other customers.
Great. Last question, back to, I guess, the safety item. I note that you had said 73% of customers say they feel safe and secure on using our public transit system, which means 27% of people don't feel safe. Do you have any information about a breakdown of that 27%, like in terms of demographics, time of usage, like if it's within a night, for example, or if it's during the day that some of these people feel unsafe?
I will rely on Scott. I'm not sure if we have this info, Chair, but this is something definitively that we can ask next time.
Yeah, I think that that would be helpful, and that I think kind of helps. That would probably help guide some of SCU's efforts as well into keeping our system safer. That's all for now. I'll come back if I need to. Thanks very much.
Okay, Councillor Curry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So thank you for all of this information. The Paratranspo bookings by phone and online that you presented there, obviously there's much more booking by phone. Obviously, the black line shows that. The orange shows there's a slight increase, but do we understand why people don't want to book online? I'm wondering if it is that personal touch that someone that's booking Paratranspo may like to talk to a real person and explain some specifics about what they might need. Have we done some investigation as to why they don't prefer to book online?
Pat, can you answer, please?
Thanks, Renee, and thank you, Mr. Chair. We don't know for sure. We talk to people when they call. We explain to them the alternatives. We don't push them hard. We know that every Paratranspo customer has their own, each one of them lives with and manages their disability as is best for them. And so it's their choice, and we remind them that it's their choice. But we are offering, and we do offer to do such things as book an online session with someone and walk them through how to use the technology. We will go to locations, like go to a place where there's several customers living nearby, and we can work with them one-on-one and show them how to do it on the computer, show them how to do it on their phones. Some people don't have the technology in front of them. Some people are less able to adapt to change. That's true. That's not a Paratranspo specific thing. That's true of everyone in life. And we're not pressing them hard. We're letting them choose.
Okay, thank you for that. I just would say a couple of things. I just wonder if we could ask them further questions, if that's possible at all, as to what the barriers might be, because sometimes it is just the way the software works that, there is a lot of rigmarole sometimes to make sure it is truly accessible, that it reads to them. There's all kinds of accessibility challenges with online everything. So I would just suggest that you ask questions. The other thing I was going to say is Ottawa Community Housing does a lot of sessions in their buildings or their areas where people can learn more about how to use the technology and have more access to technology. So I'm not sure if you connected with Ottawa Community Housing on that, but part of me thinks it may be a lot more that they would like to speak to a person. However, just want to make sure we don't have any additional barriers.
And those are exactly the things, Councillor, thank you for the suggestions. They are exactly what we're following up on, working with OCH, talking to people in more depth when they call. But you know, as you can see, it's a 3-minute wait, and for some people, they're easier for them to wait the 3 minutes on average than to learn this other process. But we're there to help them with any support they need.
All right, thank you very much for that. The other thing I was going to ask about was the comment by Mr. Reddens about, again, the nightlife strategy, if Paratranspo could be going for additional hours, 24-hour service. And I just wanted to comment, we are looking at trying to do that. Is that not the case?
Yes, that's correct.
I just want a confirmation. I know that that's not something magically happens overnight, but just the confirmation that it is being looked at, especially if we want to try to encourage more and more nightlife. The other question I had was on the telephone survey for the data that we did get. And again, I mean, I can appreciate why a telephone survey may be helpful because you can have a full conversation and understand what some of the challenges are for people. And in the report, it indicates we are looking at other measures, but for now, we're going to continue with telephone surveys. I just wondered what other options we will be looking at so that we would have an ongoing feedback as we go along. Will we actually have a survey that can be done right while you're on the bus or on the train or in the station?
Thank you for the question, Chair. One of the things that we would like to do is to have a panel of people who use frequently public transport, and we will ask them their feedback very, very frequently, just to make sure, based on the last 7 days, how was the service, et cetera, et cetera. So we will have very, very frequent and updated information.
Okay, and then thank you. That sounds good. The technology component of it, though, to make it more of an instant, you can just go on. How did you like the service today? Yes, no, something you get in a lot of other organizations.
Thank you, Chair, for the question. And that is a good example of what we're leveraging as part of our road review survey, to get feedback from transit customers. So, customer service agents with red vests on buses and at platforms with a QR code so that customers can complete those surveys. And it's something that we could explore as we further build out this transit attitude survey as well. Thank you.
Great. This is the right direction. It's great to hear. The last question I have is on the safety on our system. Those numbers are upsetting, and by all standards, you want to see zero, obviously. And I appreciate all the work you do, and I can imagine some of the situations that you might find yourself in as a group. My question, because I'm on the Police Services Board and we look at an alternate response, certainly special constables are a type of an alternate response, but at the same time, when someone calls and asks for help on the bus, they're calling 911. And then, so can you just help me understand? So then it is diverted to your unit. If it is actually on a bus, on a train, at a station, is that what actually happens? How do they know that it's you as opposed to, the police coming into the station when special constables really are the people to call?
Thank you, Chair, for the question. I'll answer this. Actually, most of our calls don't come through 911. They actually come through our Transit Operation Control Center. As Chief McRae said earlier, it's actually, if you go in there, it's one big room. Most of the calls come from bus operators right to the control center, and then it's relayed over to the Special Constables Communication Center, and they're dispatched. So, in fact, now there is occasions where people call directly to 911, and there are a lot of occasions where we both respond. But for our services, that's typically how most of the calls come in. We also have a direct number, but it's used a lot less frequently.
So if it were that, so say if a customer on the bus is seeing that a bus operator is, potentially in danger, the bus operator would have already hit a button or something automatic, but that person could also call 911 And you're saying that would be caught, there wouldn't be two responses that would go out. Police wouldn't arrive and then the special constables.
There is, oh, sorry, thank you for the question. There is an emergency button that gets pushed if the operator ever feels in danger. And that goes again to our Transit Operations Control Center. But there is occasions where both would respond at the same time. If, let's say, a customer was to call 911 because they were observing something that they felt was threatening, where both services would report to the situation.
That's an interesting thing. I'll take that back to Police Services Board. I mean, that has to do with the comm center for 911, that they don't know that there's already been a response potentially.
That's correct, but absolutely, if you'd like to elaborate.
Thank you for the question, Chair. So what will occur is if there is a 911 call, 911 will communicate with us that there is a call on transit property. Dependent on what the call is, they will either dispatch police and we have a coordinated effort, or if it's something that we normally would cover under our mandate, then we will attend. But again, every situation is different. We look at every circumstance and determine the escalation required at that time. But we are in constant communication with the 911 call center at 474 Elgin.
Okay. Okay. Good to know. The other thing I'll just ask on that same note is that, you know, you were talking a lot about alternate responses. That's how I started this. An alternate response different from police or special constable units, but a different response altogether that would be more of a mental health expert staff. This is all just being looked at. What would you say? Would you say that the majority of calls that you are called to would involve some type of mental health response? Or half of them?
Thank you for the question, Chair. I don't have an exact number. I can pull up some statistics for you and bring it to the next meeting, or I'm happy to provide that after the meeting.
I think it's actually a question for Police Services Board, really, but I think it's important for us to understand what that looks like, how many there would be, what that response would be, because my gut feeling is that there would be a lot of them. And, you know, we have situations, I think all of us where, you know, it's in we have a situation where it's in a library and there is a response now by library staff on what to do and who to call and what supports are available. So it's not just Transpo. So I just sort of think it would be important for us to get data from what you're experiencing, and just as like our libraries and other places are experiencing. Something, if you can gather it or you have a way, that'd be great. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Leeper.
Thank you, and thank you very much for that, Councillor Curry. That's a point well raised. So I've been sitting here thinking about the void. An existential question, I guess. So I just want to make sure I understand that in the case of the most recent shutdowns, RTG and OC Transpo were targeting a section of tunnel that was about 15 meters wide east of Rideau to find the source of a particular leak. There is the possibility that additional voids are situated in other parts of the tunnel. And I think my biggest concern is that we are going to be playing whack-a-mole with these for a period of months or longer as we try to ensure that the tunnel is sealed. And the work that is being done to investigate and then remediate some of these gaps requires a significant shutdown. So we've seen 2 weekends worth of O-Train shutdown. I'm concerned that we're going to have significantly more of these, and I'm trying to get a feel for how likely is it that these voids are elsewhere, and how often should residents expect that this work is going to have to be undertaken over the course of the next months and years.
Okay, thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. It is difficult for us at this stage to be accurate about the amount of work that will be required to to fully resolve the issue of water ingress into the tunnel. And I understand that that may sound unsatisfactory. We do have an understanding of the number of leaks because we can go into the tunnel this time of year and we can see the leaks. So we have an understanding of the overall areas of interest. In terms of the work that took place over the last 2 weekends, the focus was very much on that area of the tunnel east of Rideau, where we're having the most water ingress. That is our priority area. And so I think what the contractor has been able to successfully demonstrate is that they, through a 2-weekend closure, they were able to address the issues in that area. So 1 weekend undertaking the investigative work, coming up with a remedial plan, and then the following weekend actually undertaking that remedial plan. The work that is known right now is in the area to the east of Rideau, there are 3 construction joints of interest. There is also an area of concrete which is adjacent to, we call it the fan niche. So as part of the tunnel ventilation system, we have jet fans that are attached to the ceiling of the tunnel between Rideau Station and the portal. And that is also an area of interest. So we believe that we have four areas east of Rideau Station which still need to be addressed. We are working with RTG to look at how much of that can be accomplished during the June shutdown. And certainly the intent is to try and achieve as much as possible in June. So it's not a completely unknown amount of work, but we will not really understand the full extent of the remediation work until we do the investigative work. So in terms of the areas of interest, we have east of Rideau Station, and the aim is to try and deal with that completely following or during the shutdown in June. And it's not, I shouldn't say a shutdown. There will be some extended engineering hours, but there will be work taking place in June. And then what we need to do is assess the work that's going to be required west of Rideau.
Okay, that is actually a reassuring answer. That gives me an idea that this is finite and can be accomplished within a reasonable period of time. The work that we're doing to build our tunnel in the West End right now is cut and cover. Are there lessons to be learned from a different construction technique with respect to lining that we need to take into account for our cut and cover tunnel, which, you know, obviously has that proximity to the river and is the cause of some significant concern on the part of residents?
Thank you for the question. I would say that question is probably best answered by the team working within Rail Construction Office. What I do know, though, is that it is not similar construction. So as you mentioned, the work as part of stage 2 includes tunnels that are all being constructed through a cut and cover process. So which is very different to the multi-phase lining process that was required when we built the tunnel through the downtown core.
Okay. I do find that answer reassuring in terms of having some idea that this isn't going to be, you know, years or 2 years or 3 years of shutdowns on weekends in order to play whack-a-mole with leaks. There's a defined number of areas. If the West is similar to and not much worse, then it sounds like, speaking as a layperson, by the end of the year, hopefully we have leaks under control before we move on to the next issue. Okay, thank you.
Okay, we'll go to Councillor Kavanagh and then Councillor Lowe.
Thank you, Chair. Appreciate it. Thank you for the questions that have already come up. I apologize. I missed the presentation at the beginning, came in a bit late, but just following up on the leakage, is this related to the smell problem? is that connected? I don't know if that was covered off.
Thank you for the question. We cannot categorically say one way or the other whether these issues are connected. That there is a discussion around the type of water that is being seen within the tunnel. And so what we know to the east of Rideau Station, the water that is leaking through the tunnel wall, it's groundwater. So we do not have an odor associated with it. So the kind of leaks that we're dealing with now and that we've been talking about and the work that was addressed in the last 2 weekends, that's groundwater. The leaks associated with the smelly water, then the source of that water is expected to be different. The work that will occur to the west of Rideau, will that have any impact? I'm not in a position to say at this point.
Is that investigation still continuing on that source?
I would have to get back to you on the status of that.
Okay, that would be helpful. I mean, obviously, it's pretty serious if it's sewage, and it's more than just smell. It's a health issue as well. So I hope we can get more information on that. Thank you. I just wanted to, changing topics on the GPS system. I wanted to thank OC Transpo for coming back with the report. I appreciate it. I was kind of nagging for many months and years to ask for improvements, and I appreciate that that's happening. I do have a question though, in regards to missing buses. We've had buses that were missing, and it was a particular route, and I'm going to say it. It was Route 51, where they go into Britannia Village, and this has happened several times where the bus didn't show up at all. They just skipped that part, and it's not just once or twice. So, but how would that be picked up? How would the customer know that's sitting there, you know, and a student waiting to go to school? So I just wanted to get some information on that. Thank you.
Well, maybe we'll hold that question because we are going to go more in detail about the customer communications and technology as a later item. Yep. So we'll come back to that in a little bit.
Thank you.
That was it. Okay. Councillor Lowe.
Thank you. Building on the data about the operator assaults, I know you said about 10, I think, of those 35 assaults from last year happened on the buses without the shields, right? So go ahead.
Thank you for the question. Yeah, yes, that's correct. 10 occurred on the buses without shields as of yet.
Okay, so those 10 notwithstanding, the remainder, I believe about 25 happened on buses with shields. How exactly are they happening? Or is it the gap? Is it the gap at the front of it, above it, or is someone forcing them open?
Thank you for the question again. Yeah, it would be 26 that are left over. Of the 26, variety of categories. Some of them could be, yes, because of the gap, struck with like a coffee cup or something like that, but threats are also considered an assault, and these type things. There's a variety of things. That's why I wanted to mention in the presentation that it's not just a physical assault. It can be inappropriate behavior, threatening behavior, that type of stuff, harassment.
Okay, and based on that, I assume you have the breakdown of all the numbers and everything and what happens, but based on that, do you see any sort of concern with the significantly sized gap that's at the front of the Nova buses?
Thank you for the question. Like anything, it's a process of continuous improvement, but I'd rather focus on the fact that this is the first year that we haven't had any significant injuries. And that's like over the last 5 years. So it's a pretty impressive achievement. So they are doing their job.
No, it definitely is. No, thank you for that.
Chair, I will ask Dan Villeneuve to comment this question, please. Okay.
Thanks for the question, Mr. Chair. The question, I believe, was around the gap in front of the barriers. The gap in front of the barriers, we did a lot of prior to installing the barriers, we did studies with or focus groups with our operators, with the manufacturers, accessibility and so on, just to ensure that there's no visibility impact. And that's why the barrier that is installed, we cannot extend it further towards the windshield of the bus itself.
Okay, no, thanks. Thanks for that information. I just wanted to be sure that gap was not the cause of the remainder of the operator assault. But if assault is just like a very umbrella term to categorize a lot of things, including verbal and maybe threats, then there is some comfort in that. So thanks very much.
Okay, thanks everyone. I'm seeing no more questions. So thank you to staff for this update, and we'll keep moving through the agenda. The next item that we held was 7.1, zero-emission bus pilot performance and evaluation. We do not have a presentation, but we do have one speaker registered. We have Raymond Laurier joining us from the Electric Vehicle Council of Ottawa. So we'll bring Raymond into the room here. Good morning, Raymond.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me, Chair, and I'll start the presentation. So next slide, please. So we first want to start by congratulating the engineering team for a great report. They did a lot of work, quite a bit of work over the last year, trying to confirm that these buses are fit for purpose. So happy to see that. This will only get better as the batteries improve. So over time, as battery capacity is larger, we'll be able to reduce or eliminate the use of the diesel heaters. So the e-buses weren't used as much as they would have been if they were in regular service. That being said, they still saved 100,000 liters of diesel over a year, and for 4 buses. So that's 140 tons of GHG emissions less, which is great. Next slide, please. And if you look at the cost of that diesel saved, if we assume 25,000 liters per bus, at the current cost is about $1.50 per liter for diesel, and that means about $37,000 saved. Which is more than what we expected when we did the original calculations we had for savings 4 years ago. So if you look at the carbon tax and the impacts it will have over time, so the price of diesel will increase by 27.5 cents per liter by 2030. So that means the savings will be even greater. So we're talking about savings of on the order of $45,000 or more per year per bus just on diesel. And if you include the savings in maintenance, that will bring us to somewhere above $64,000 per year per bus. Next slide, please. So urgency to act, I guess what I want to bring up there is that we started on this journey now 4 years ago. It's already a long time, and we need to really start getting more buses in. So I know that there's some work being done on procuring the 26 buses that are supposed to be procured this year. I would urge the Commission to look at perhaps accelerating the procurement of the next batch of buses, because we're expecting that the wait time for delivering of these buses will be more than usual, given that there's many other transit authorities that have been asking for electric buses and ordering electric buses. Next slide, please. So in terms of the future, what we are recommending is that OC Transpo look at something for the year 2027 and beyond. So just a reminder for everybody who doesn't know this, OC Transpo uses buses for about 15 years, and there is a refit that's done about 7 to 8 years through the life of the bus. And the refit is a major rebuilding of the bus, including replacing the diesel engine and transmission and various other components that have that aren't working anymore. So it's a fairly expensive process. If you look at what the city of Milton has just announced that they're doing, they're running a pilot to convert a diesel bus to an electric during that refit. So instead of refitting with yet another diesel engine, they replace a diesel engine with battery electric components. The incremental cost for that is about $400,000 per bus, we expect that because of battery prices decreasing, that cost will decrease over time. So it should be considerably less than that over the next few years. So what we're recommending is that OC Transpo consider conversions instead of refits in the next few years. And Milton will be doing some studies and reporting on their success with this program. Next slide, please. So if we look at what that means in terms of buses, and I can't see some of the numbers there. Oh, it's because my thing is covered. So there are some buses that are slated to be replaced in 34, 35, and 36. Those should be undergoing a refit process in 2027, 28, 29. And those buses in particular would be a good target to do a refit with electric instead of doing a refit with diesel. Thank you. That's the end of my presentation.
Okay. Whoops. Okay, thank you very much. There is a question for you. Wow, you made it back just in time. Councillor Leeper.
Thank you, Chair. So what about refits? Sorry, I'm not familiar with the concept of refitting existing diesels. Is that something that is, oh, I'm sorry, is this for the
delegation? This is for the delegation, Councillor Leeper.
Okay, so I'm going to rephrase for the delegation. Is this, in your experience, are these refits fairly common in the industry, or is Milton doing something that's kind of out there?
Milton uses a process that's very similar to what OC Transpo uses. They keep their buses for 12 years though, and they do a refit through half the, 50% of the life of the bus. It's very similar to OC Transpo, where they do essentially they disassemble the full vehicle and replace anything that needs to be replaced if there's any rust or whatever, and typically replace the engine and transmission at the same time. So the process, you're talking about several $100,000 worth of work being done on the bus. So the idea here is that they are using the opportunity with one of the buses to try to refit with an electric solution instead, and then they're going to study the impact of that over. The bus should be back in service in 2024, and they'll study the impact of that and how it works, and then they'll be able to. We'll be able to see whether it's turning out well or not.
But are you familiar with other examples of this globally, or other transit systems?
My understanding is all transit systems do something similar. It's just that diesel engines.
And, retroactively putting an electric motor in rather than refitting it within a rehabbed diesel or something.
So this is the first one that I've heard of. So my understanding is the company that they're using is the only company in Canada that's doing that currently.
Okay.
There may be examples elsewhere, but I'm not aware off the top there of any other examples.
Okay, I've showed my cards. I'll be asking staff about what they think on this. I appreciate your raising it. Thank you.
Any other questions for our delegation? I'm seeing none. So thanks very much, Raymond, for your presentation today and for the suggestions and for your continued advocacy on this. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we'll turn to questions for staff. Councillor Leeper.
Yeah, I've got a question for. So what about refits? This sounds fascinating. $400,000 to install an electric motor as you're refitting the bus. It does seem like the opportunity for cost savings. Have you taken a look at what Milton is doing?
Chair, je peux parler de mon expérience. Après ça, Dan va vous parler aussi au niveau.
Well, I can talk about my experience, and Dan can talk about his. Well, first of all, converting a bus to an electric bus, that would cost a lot of money, would require the infrastructure in the garage as well. So to convert the buses is not really viable for us. In the past, we've taken hybrid buses, so we've made them entirely electric, but I've never seen anyone transform a diesel bus into an electric bus. The electric bus technology now exists. I would ask now my colleague to provide more detail.
On the sort of transitioning from diesels to electric. However, you got to keep in mind that the diesel buses that we have were designed for diesel engines, transmission. They don't have the structure set up for the weights of the batteries on the roof and so on. It can be done. However, then you also lose warranty from the bus manufacturer. So it's something that is doable. However, at this point, not recommended.
Okay, and you'll be watching the Milton trial, and I'm sure having some discussions with them when they're done.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Okay, Councillor Hill.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And thank you very much, staff, for the report. It was great to read the updates on how this pilot is going forward. A number of fairly specific questions. Can you speak to the lower than expected charger availability and what caused that dip? And do we have a solution to address that issue moving forward?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. Yes, the lower availability, we saw it on one of the brands of chargers that we had, the Siemens chargers. They came out with their second generations of chargers, and they had small issues at the beginning. So we had to upsize the fans within the, well, when you say we, the manufacturer, had to upsize the fans within the power cabinets, and they had relay issues. Since then, the reliability has increased. And I believe, looking at the data, for the past 3-4 months, we have not seen many or any failures.
No, thank you very much for that. And just carrying on, the topic of the charger system, there was an article I saw in the news about probably 4 or 5 days ago. It spoke to an EV vehicle fire in a garage. It talked about the fire suppression requirements that went with that, and the method that that fire dealt with it. A concern that I have is our charging bay and what we're constructing from an infrastructure perspective. Understanding that we're kind of putting all our eggs in one basket, I would hate to see, a one-off fire as a result of a nick or corrosion on the battery turn to something that caused a catastrophic chain reaction in that facility with all the buses they're charging. So could you just speak to the fire suppression, the safety, the building code components that can give me a reassurance that if and when a fire incident will happen with one bus, which it's fair to say that probably will happen over the course of its life, that we're doing everything we can to maintain the fleet integrity and not have a further incident.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the question. So maybe just walking through it's certainly a big topic and it's a big discussion and has been within our team and within all our stakeholders. So I think to talk about this, we need to talk about fire prevention. And so initially that's how do we prevent a thermal runaway of the batteries? We need to talk about fire detection, and we need to talk about fire prevention. So in terms of the technology that is now available on our current electric buses and what we're expecting as part of the specifications for the new buses, then the electric batteries do have onboard systems that are constantly monitoring the charge within the battery, the charging levels, but also monitoring the temperature within the battery cells. And so that is a key part of the prevention of a thermal runaway. Once there are any indications that the battery is not performing as designed, then the battery itself and the system on the bus will shut down that battery, will shut down the charge, depending on the level of anomaly that is occurring in the battery. There is an escalation. At some point, the operator of the bus will be informed that there is an issue, so that bus will be taken out of service, we would certainly disembark passengers, and we would isolate that bus. And then there is a whole protocol for dealing with a bus where we have these kind of elevated levels. So in terms of prevention, we are relying on the battery manufacturers and their technology. And with each new generation of bus comes a new generation of battery, and so these systems are improving all the time. In terms of the detection of a potential thermal runaway, I've talked a little bit about the systems that are on the bus for detecting a thermal runaway. So heat detection, we're also looking at possibility of smoke detection on the buses. But in terms of the facility where a bus would be parked, the depot, then, part of the upgrades for the existing facilities is, the introduction of smoke detectors and heat detectors so that we have this secondary kind of detection process or detection system within the facilities. And then moving on to the suppression component, as part of our upgrades, we will be improving the sprinkler systems and working with Building Code Services and also Ottawa Fire Services. We will be upgrading the sprinkler system to meet the kind of highest level of hazard associated with fires that could be accepted. So that's roughly tripling the amount of water than would be provided in a normal facility. The best available advice that we have been given and that we have learned from doing research with other organizations, and so we are certainly not working in isolation. We're involved in a number of groups and committees, both in North America and in Europe and worldwide, that are very much focused on this issue, the issue of fires within electric batteries. The best available information right now is that the way to deal with a thermal runaway is to use a rather massive amount of water to try and cool the battery for an extended period. And so some of the experiences that that are playing into our design are that it is absolutely necessary to ensure that the cells are completely cooled and are made completely inert by the application of large amounts of water. So that's kind of covering things, I would say, at the high level. Maybe just to talk about some of the other considerations around the hazards associated with a thermal runaway. In terms of an incident occurring at a depot, then our priority is people's safety. So we need to evacuate people immediately. So part of the design of the facilities, both the retrofit of the existing facilities and the new facility that is being built, there will be attention made to paths of safe egress that will be protected so that staff or other personnel can safely evacuate from an area should there be any kind of indication of a hazard associated with a thermal runaway. So that's kind of the first indication. That's one of the kind of key design elements and how we're preparing. One of the other elements is creating zones for buses. Obviously, we do not want to be building a facility and storing buses in such a way that if there was a thermal runaway event in one bus, we lost the whole fleet. So the intent is to set up fire zones so that we have an acceptable loss. The precise numbers of buses and the size of those fire zones is still subject to the detailed design process for the facilities, and it is also subject to the discussions that we're having in our working groups and with whatever latest information we can glean from what other agencies are doing. But certainly it's the intent to limit the impact of the hazards associated with the thermal runaway as much as practically we can at this point.
Thank you very much, Mr. Holder, for the detailed response. I appreciate that. You referred to incidents happening outside and fire prevention and maintenance support outside of the depot. Is there adequate systems like jump trucks or maintenance trucks that can go and actually pick up one of these things or deal with the maintenance if you have a destroyed vehicle or a vehicle that's shut down for maintenance reasons out in Orleans or wherever? How would you deal with getting that back?
So part of the work that we're doing with our fire and life safety working group is looking at those kind of questions. So I don't have a precise answer for you now, but in terms of our preparedness and our response, it's in technology, but it's certainly in process, and it's in training, and it's in procedures, and it's in ensuring that we have adequate equipment. So that the question of how do we potentially move one of these vehicles, then that is something that is currently being discussed.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Councillor Lowe.
Thank you, Chair. In the document, it states that a charge can hold for about 8 to 10 hours, I believe. I don't remember the number. But when we run reduced weekday service around the holidays, like Christmas, March break, and all of that, when we don't run the school trips, I remember we sometimes have runs that are in excess of 16 to 20 hours. And this is to reduce the amount of deadheading we have to do because the service just doesn't require it. Do you foresee any concerns or changes that you'll have to make to that service, or any extra costs that will come to that reduced service because the electric buses can't do 16 to 20-hour runs during those periods?
Mr. Chair, yes, there will be added costs when buses don't have as long a range as they do with the diesel-powered buses do. Those buses would have to come back and be changed at the garage for another bus, which is already charged up. And those costs were all factored into the business plan that council considered when approving the project.
And other than the costs, will that impact the actual service that we deliver during those time periods?
Mr. Chair, no, we don't expect it to, and we expect it to be completely invisible to customers.
Okay, thanks very much.
Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions. So is this report received? Received. Thank you. We're going to take 5 minutes before we move on to the next item, so everyone can reset and refresh. So it is, what time is it right now? It is 11:31. We'll come back about 11:35, 11:36. 5 minutes. We just need one more member for quorum, so that's why we're waiting.
I'm here, Chair.
Thanks, Councilor Menard. Okay, we will continue with our next item. It is 7.2 on the agenda, communicating real-time information to customers. And we're going to begin with the staff presentation.
Merci beaucoup, Chair. Je vais être très brève. At the February 9th Transit Commission meeting, Commissioner Hill submitted an inquiry about how we communicate live and real-time information to our customers. And je sais aussi que c'est un sujet que la conseillère Kavanagh.
I understand that is a topic dear to Councillor Kavanagh.
Budget and proposed future improvements for communicating live information to riders. Our staff responded to Commissioner Hill inquiries stating that a presentation will be brought to the May meeting of the Transit Commission, which is today. We are now pleased to update you on the Real Information Project and share with you our plans for future improvements. There's a lot of important work to still be done in updating our real-time information systems to match industry standards, which will greatly benefit our customers. I would like now to introduce to you Hawa Howard. She's a manager of transit technology and innovation. Merci beaucoup d'être là, Hawa. À toi.
Merci René. Bonjour, Monsieur le Président et membres de la Commission.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure for me to present you an overview of the real-time data project in OC Transpo, as well as all of the information that I have about the information.
Real-time information to customers and to describe the improvements we'll be bringing to our digital tools in the near future. Next slide, please. For the presentation, I'll start by giving an overview of our real-time data feed, of the mobile apps, and of our customer alert system. I'll then describe the project that will deliver improvements in these areas. And finally, I'll highlight some changes that we've completed to date that have already improved the customer experience. Next slide, please. So what is real-time data and how do we communicate it? Real-time data mainly includes two things: a bus location, or its GPS data, and a bus arrival prediction in minutes for a given bus stop. This data is updated frequently, and it's sent through a feed called the Real-Time Arrival API. The data is used by the many OC Transpo real-time travel tools available to customers. These tools include the website, octranspo.com, the OC Transpo iPhone app, 560-560 text messaging service, the 560-1000 phone IVR service, and the many transit information screens at stations. All of these systems provide real-time arrival data when it's available. The API serves about 2.7 million data requests per day from all of these systems, and it covers about 5,800 bus stops, 700 buses, and 8,300 trips per weekday. Real-time bus arrival predictions only kick in when a trip has started and served its first stop. When the trip hasn't started, real-time data isn't available, and the API will provide a scheduled time. Most systems, the website, the text messaging service, and the apps will indicate to a customer with an asterisk or other symbol if the prediction is real-time or not. Providing accurate data in the feed depends on several factors. For example, the bus must be signed on correctly to a scheduled trip. The scheduled data across the systems has to be aligned so that trip numbers match, and the system performance has to keep up with the demand for data. Next slide, please. Mobile apps are one of the most important tools for customers taking transit. We make real-time data available to independent app developers through the city's open data program. Developers can access the bus schedule and can subscribe to the API and use our real-time data in their apps. Apps can also ingest our customer alerts through a separate open feed, the RSS feed. There are several independent apps for iPhone and Android featured on the app gallery on the website. Customers can choose their preferred app. The top 3 apps are listed here: Transit app is the most used, followed by Bus Buddy and Ottawa Transit. The OC Transpo app, iPhone app, which has been around a long time, is at end of life and will have to be retired. It no longer has widespread usage, likely because there are better and newer options available. Next slide, please. Customer alerts are notifications that we publish about changes to transit service that could impact a customer's travel. Alerts can be about several topics like canceled trips, detours, elevator outages, or general service disruptions. Alerts are posted in several places for customers. By email or text message on the My Alerts portal on octranspo.com, and they can customize the alerts they receive by topic or by route. All alerts today are written and sent by staff using an alert entry system. They are not automated. Next slide, please. The real-time information we provide to customers comes from several integrated systems, from onboard the vehicle through the scheduling and dispatch systems to the travel tools in the customer's hand. OC Transpo was one of the first transit systems in Canada to provide real-time bus information, but we're now at a point where some of our customer information technology is behind current standards and needs investment. The current real-time data feed we know has some limitations, which may cause delayed or missing data on some trips. We need better tools to measure and monitor the availability and delivery of real-time data across the system. And as mentioned, alerts are written and published by staff manually, including trip cancellations. So on challenging days with a lot of service adjustments, like for bad weather, it can be challenging for staff to keep up and send timely alerts. Next slide, please. So over the past few years, we've been making necessary upgrades to some of the underlying technology systems. In particular, we completed the replacement of the bus dispatch and control system between 2020 and 2022. That work was a prerequisite to changing our customer information technology. As part of the dispatch system transition, we also upgraded the arrival prediction software and the real-time API to integrate with the new system. In 2021-2022, we conducted an analysis of which technology improvements would have the highest value for customers. This included looking at industry trends and what other transit systems across North America are doing. For 2023, Council approved capital funding of $2.45 million for the project to improve our digital customer platform. The project focuses on 4 main areas: data feed, data quality, alerts, and travel tools. Next slide, please. The first and most fundamental improvement in the project is to provide our real-time data feed in the industry standard called GTFS-RT. RT stands for real-time. GTFS-RT combines vehicle positions, trip updates, and service alerts into one feed. This means that apps can present better and more timely information on trip changes. For example, a trip can be tagged as canceled rather than simply disappearing from the feed as it does today. Using GTFS-RT, using the GTFS-RT standard also means that our real-time information will be available in widely used tools like Google Maps and Apple Maps. The next part of the project focuses on improving the overall quality of our real-time data. This means providing more accurate information to customers about when their bus will arrive. For this, we need to measure, monitor, and benchmark our real-time data quality. This will be made possible with GTFS-RT. We want to reduce the latency in transmitting GPS positions and arrival prediction updates. We also want to find other ways to improve the data, like providing predictions at the first stop or for the next trip. Next slide, please. To improve alerts, we will implement a new alert entry and management system for staff, as well as an enhanced portal for customers to be able to target alerts for their travel needs by time of day or by direction, for example. The aim is to reduce staff effort and provide faster, more relevant and consistent alerts. To improve travel tools, we will enhance octranspo.com with a number of new and responsive features, like a real-time travel planner, an interactive map with vehicle tracking, location awareness, an at-a-glance transit system health status, and other great features. We are exploring a pilot of e-ink screens with real-time bus arrival at bus stops. And we want to provide powerful and easy-to-use alternatives to the OC Transpo app. Next slide, please. So as far as apps go, I've touched on this in previous slides. There are several great independent apps available to Ottawa Transit customers. Transit app and Bus Buddy are the two most popular. Both are more advanced than the OC Transpo app. Because there are great options out there, and for other reasons, our analysis shows that continuing to develop and maintain an app of our own is not the recommended technology investment strategy. In light of this, with our collaboration, Transit app will soon be making new features available to all OC Transpo customers. Transit app is available in both English and French for both iPhone and Android, and is also the primary app for STO, so will allow seamless travel. Transit app will also be in a position to switch to our GTFS RT feed once it's available. We will retire the OC Transpo iPhone app once the Transit app enhancements are in place. Of course, we're happy to cooperate with all app developers to best integrate our OC Transpo data. Next slide, please. So the timelines for the project are as follows. Transit app will replace the OC Transpo app as early as this summer. The GTFS RT feed will be launched early next year, and the new alert system later in 2024. Website and travel tool enhancements will be ongoing, the bulk of which will come after we have GTFS RT. We plan to release a new saved favorites feature on the next departures page of the website this spring, and we'll release other new features to customers as they become available. This is the current estimated delivery schedule, but we're working with our vendors to accelerate this work as much as possible. Finally, I wanted to highlight several recent improvements that we made in the context of this project. In January, we made a large investment to upgrade the server infrastructure of our real-time systems to better support the compute load of providing real-time data and calculating predictions. We noticed that the API output is more consistent and stable. In February, we completed the development of a dashboard that allows staff to monitor the prediction system and provides great insights into performance issues. And in April, we performed a system optimization so that now we see over 90% of bus locations on active trips are updated every minute or less. We look forward to delivering the exciting improvements for this project, and we do today and will continue to strive for continuous improvement in our real-time systems. Next slide. That concludes the presentation. Over to you, Chair. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. There's lots of hands up. I know this is an important topic and really interesting one as well. I'm going to go to our committee members first. Councillor Leeper. Oh, we have the speaker. The speaker is here. Okay, pause that. We do have a speaker on this item. We have Carrie Glines-Elliott from Ottawa Transit Riders. Carrie, we weren't sure if you were still here, but I'm glad you are.
I'm definitely here.
And we can hear you now.
Okay, there you go. All right, well, thank you for giving me this opportunity. I think some of you already know me. I'm Carrie Glines-Elliott, and I'm a board member of the Ottawa Transit Riders. This is my first appearance to this Transit Commission, but we try to have a member of the Ottawa Transit Riders at every Transit Commission to sort of talk a little bit about transit rider experiences and things like that. Allow me to say that I am really, really excited to hear about advancements regarding the communications. This has been one of our top priorities, saying that, you know, even as we deal with a few other challenges with the transit system, having much better communication helps transit riders actually navigate the system. It's very frustrating to have your bus canceled, but at least if you're told with enough notice that your bus is being canceled, you can actually make some alternative arrangements. So I am very happy to hear about these changes. Now, I do have some questions and some concerns. I'd really like to know, for example, how many bus routes are covered by the new system. We already have a lot of these a lot of these tools, but if you use something like Bus Buddy, you'll notice that only about half the buses appear to be GPS connected in that way. So I have a few other questions. One is that in the system, it says that the new GPS system won't start until the bus route begins. And I'd like to point out that a lot of transit riders find that very, very frustrating. If you're standing at Saint Laurent Station and you're waiting for the number 14 to start, and you don't know until the bus actually pulls up to the stop whether that bus is actually going to run or not. And so I really would like to know if there's any way to sort of change this or adjust it so that you have 10 minutes or 15 minutes or 20 minutes lead time. I think that would just make things so much better. I think that would be really, really interesting and very, very useful. The other question that I have is I'd like to know if OC Transpo has specific policies about which buses get canceled and which do not. We would like to know if you have a policy about canceling the first bus of the day or the last bus of the day, or if there are specific routes where there are not very many alternatives if you don't cancel those buses very often. We had a transit forum in Canada in January, and one of the things that a lot of the people brought up is that the bus cancellations are often uneven and have a disproportionate effect on certain people. So some people mentioned bus number 61, for example, where it alternates. At one point it goes to Stittsville, and the next point it goes to Terry Fox. And if you cancel every other bus, then the people who are going to one of those destinations don't get to where they're going to. So I would like to know if there's a specific written policy about which bus routes are most likely to be canceled and how much notice needs to be given. I notice, I know that the previous manager, for example, said that he waited right up until the time when the bus was actually supposed to start its route before officially announcing that it was canceled. That doesn't help riders very much. So I am looking for some policies about that. I'd also like to know if any of the communications platforms that you're using allow for feedback from riders. We don't really know how to do this ourselves, but a lot of the feedback that we're getting from transit riders is they would like to be able to report in real time that there are problems on buses. Say there's a problem with a bus that's broken down, or a bus that's particularly crowded or something like that. They would like an opportunity, a way to feed that to OC Transpo and have OC Transpo warn people. This is, you know, challenging, but I think it's a real demand from transit riders. And my last question is actually about Paratranspo. You're talking about communication right here, and I realize that this communication is not necessarily for Paratranspo, but one of the messages that we're getting from Paratranspo riders is that it's very, very frustrating for them to be given a very large window of time for when their bus might arrive. So they book it for 3 o'clock. It might arrive well before 3 o'clock. It might arrive well after 3 o'clock. They have a long period of time where they have to wait, and then they have to get ready as quickly as possible as soon as that Paratranspo bus arrives. I'm wondering if any of the communication technology that you're considering can be used a little bit like Uber to give people a heads up. The bus is coming in 5 minutes. The bus is coming in 10 minutes. It gives people time to put on their coats and they don't have to be sitting there waiting. So I've got 32 seconds left. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carrie. You've raised a lot of good questions, and perhaps some of our committee members will ask staff about those. Are there any questions for the delegation? I'm seeing none. Okay, thanks for joining us, Carrie.
Bye.
We will move now to questions for staff, and Councillor Leeper is up first.
Thank you. And I will ask one of Carrie's questions, and I know other members of the committee will ask some as well. I'm going to get like very personal here in terms of understanding how the current system works and how that interacts with my own use of the transit app, just to help me understand the mechanics of these communications. So the first use case that I experience frequently is there is this, if I'm waiting for a 14 that is heading for City Hall at the corner of Parkdale and Wellington. So it's 3 stops from Tunney's Pasture. I'm arriving at the stop frequently when the schedule says I should be there. So I'm going to the transit app, it's saying leave in 6 minutes, I leave in 6 minutes, and then I'm waiting and there's no indication that the bus is coming. I'm assuming that that's because it hasn't started its trip yet. And if it's longer than I expect to wait, that's because the bus is late starting its trip. Are those safe assumptions?
Thanks for the question, Chair. Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so will the improvements that are being made handle that? Will I get more accurate arrival time once you've put in place the improvements?
So the goal of the improvements is to provide more accurate arrival times and also, arrival times in more cases. So before your trip has started, for example, you would start to see real-time predictions rather than seeing a scheduled time countdown. And if your trip is canceled, it'll disappear. So the improvements will address a lot of these use cases and pain points that we hear about.
But it's not a canceled trip. It's a bus that's late getting started from Tunney's Pasture, presumably because it's late arriving to Tunney's Pasture. Will you have a more accurate understanding behind the scenes of what time that bus is actually expected to start its trip?
So again, you'll be served a scheduled time until the bus starts its trip. If it's late to start its trip, you'll still just see a scheduled time. So once it starts, you start to see real time and get an accurate prediction.
So for those of us who are at the beginning
Correct.
of very busy, often late routes, we're not necessarily going to see an improvement in terms of understanding what time that bus is actually going to get there.
Well, once we can predict beyond the current trip, we'll be able to provide predictions for the first stop and the early stops. And so you will see where your bus is before it's actually engaged on the trip that you're going to take.
Okay, so for the 14 that is on its way to Tunney's Pasture, and I don't mean to make this like about my route, but I just want to understand the mechanics. For that 14 that's on its way to Tunney's Pasture, if it's running late to get to Tunney's Pasture, are you going to be incorporating a better prediction now about what time that bus is going to arrive at the at my stop on its way back?
So the improvements, excuse me, would be able to provide you a prediction anywhere on the trip. So at any stop on the trip, based on where the current location of the bus is. So if a bus is arriving late from a previous trip, we could provide an adjusted prediction. That's the goal.
Perfect. Okay, that's a good improvement then, because currently if the bus starts late and there's going to be a significant gap between when the bus starts and what its scheduled start is, those of us who are early in the route are just waiting for the predicted time to become real time. And then I'm just taking a look on transit right now. In order to go home at number 14, it's telling me I have to go at noon. I missed that one. There's no bus showing. I don't know where that 14 is, somewhere between Saint Laurent and here. I don't see that bus's location, which can help me understand whether or not the bus is on time or not, or how come it's not showing up in GPS at this point?
So if the bus hasn't started its trip, you won't see it on GPS.
So it's telling me it's real-time information. It would have left Saint Laurent probably 17, 18 minutes ago before it gets here. And it's telling me to go in like 3 minutes, go catch your bus. Surely that it has started its trip. It should be showing up somewhere between Saint Laurent and here.
Mr. Chair, if you're looking at Transit App Live, so am I. It says that 1 minute ago, 26 seconds ago, it just updated, 27, 29, 30 seconds ago, it's just pulling into the bus stops at Rideau Station. So it's just crossing, now it's just updated again. 9 seconds ago, it crossed Waller.
Okay.
And it's expected to be here at Elgin and Nepean in 4 minutes. The next bus behind that is expected to be here in 21 minutes. And the map is showing that right now it's on MacArthur between Dieppe and Brant.
Okay, it wasn't showing up on my map, so.
I can't speak to how transit app works internally, but just when you asked the question, I opened it up and it's showing those two for me right now.
Okay. And then my final question, I know colleagues have lots. Sorry, what is the e-ink pilot? I took note of that in the presentation that was sent to us. Does that mean you'll be able to scroll it yourself rather than waiting for?
No, so e-ink screens are like e-readers, basically. So it would be a screen that rather than seeing a paper, schedule at your bus stop, you would see what looks like an e-reader, almost like an e-ink screen, and it would provide the schedule and the real-time updates for that bus stop.
So this isn't at transit stations. This is at just regular flags on
Correct.
routes. Oh, that's very exciting.
And the advantage of the e-ink over the LCD screen is that it's like a Kindle, right? They're very low power. We can charge them keep them running with batteries and solar panels and not need big power feeds to every bus stop.
And glare isn't a problem.
The contrast isn't going to be as good as with an LCD. They're not going to be full color. They're going to be slower to react in cold weather, but they're a promising technology that we can deliver information right to more bus stops.
Okay, thank you for that better understanding. That's very exciting. All right, Chair, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Lowe.
Okay. Hi, thank you. I kind of want to build off some of Councillor Leeper's questions. When it comes to the first stop prediction that you're thinking about, does that take deadheading into account? Like, do you kind of schedule, so to speak, deadhead? So say somebody is late on a deadhead traveling out of service, somebody's late on a deadhead going to Tunney's pasture. Will it show that, hey, this trip might start 6-7 minutes late, at least?
Thanks for the question, Chair. We don't today, I guess, map out deadheads, so it would be hard to extend a prediction from a deadhead. It's not a scheduling practice we do today.
Okay, because I think it would be, I understand not mapping out the deadheads. I know it's just point A to point B, but I think from a customer service standpoint, if we're going to have first stop predictions for some routes that are coming off a different route, and then you have another chunk of buses that are coming off deadheads that don't get that first stop prediction, then there may be, it may actually cause confusion among customers. So if maybe something to consider, and I'll gently put that in there. So I do want to thank you otherwise for recognizing that our despite us being innovative, being the innovation forefront many years ago, now we've kind of fallen behind a little bit in some aspects. And part of innovation is recognizing that there are partners that we can work with to continually improve our services. So you mentioned Transit app. Are we pursuing like a formal relationship with them, or are we just kind of strengthening the data that we provide with them, that we provide them with, or that they can get from us going forward?
So it is a formal relationship. We are, Transit app will be sort of opening up all their features to OC Transpo customers. It's a kind of a geocoded feature so that if you're in the Ottawa area, you will have a full feature Transit app working for you.
Okay, and I know that some of their upcoming innovations are really exciting too. Like they might have AI to detect detours automatically and communicate them, right? So no, that's really good, and I appreciate that transparency of recognizing that we may be falling behind. So thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Lowe. Councillor Hill.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Just on behalf of our delegate, can you speak a little bit to the distribution throughout the fleet of the GPS? I know the question was, are all of the buses going to be receiving this, or some of them? Is there a breakdown that you could perhaps give that might be a little bit more open?
Yeah, every bus is equipped with GPS and is able to report its GPS location for the real-time data feed.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And just with regards to, you'd mentioned that you're going to be working with vendors to upgrade the system. Can you confirm which ones and how they'll be decided?
Yes, so we have the dispatch and control system that is used sort of in the control room and kind of is the heart of this, as well as the onboard system for intelligence on location and other vehicle information is from Clever Devices. The alert system we will procure, so we will be going out for a tender to build that sort of integrated alerts management and portal. Other vendors we're working with our transit app, and we are also looking at sort of a layer of improvement, sort of that data quality piece. And there are several vendors in that space. Swiftly is one of them to sort of help us with, with our data quality initiative. So they're not all decided, but Clever Devices is the big sort of at the heart of it.
Okay, thank you very much. And I just want to thank you for all the work that you put into this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Kavanaugh. Oh, Renee wanted to add something. There you go.
Okay, there you go. Je veux juste préciser pour le
I just
conseiller.
want to point out for Councillor Hill that we had a call for tender quite a while ago. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you to the team for working on this. I know it's been worked on for a long time and I really appreciate it. You already answered the question about the GPS connections. They'll be on all buses. There was a question, it's not totally related, but just in terms of cancellations of last and first buses, is there a policy to make sure that that's not the case?
Mr. Chair, yes, there's very strong operating procedures in the Transit Operations Control Center about where resources are to be directed first if there's a trip to be covered. I think we use the word canceled, but these are not deliberate choices. These are situations where the bus is not available or the operator is not available to deliver a trip. And the way to deliver that trip is often to bring another bus into position to cover that trip. So in the example where you've got 2 trips to cover, but only 1 resource to use to fill one or the other, a first trip, a last trip, a trip on a low frequency route, a school trip will always be chosen over a trip on a route that runs frequently, or a trip where the next trip on that route has already come or is coming in a minute. No need to repair a problem that's repairing itself. So the highest priority is never strand a customer anywhere.
Thank you. I know it's going to be a boon for people because if they have more reliable information, they're going to more likely use the system. And I had already asked my question earlier, and I apologize. I had thought we had come to this already, but I just wanted to find out about routes where I've discovered that a section gets missed where it's been skipped. It's a loop that should have been on the route, and the driver didn't do it, and people were left waiting for buses. This happened a few times, so that's why I have to raise it. And this is the 51 in Britannia Village. But how would that happen? What would it show up as for something like that?
So I'll speak a little bit about the what might have happened on the service side, and then Laurier can speak to what data would have been served to customers asking. It's not normal that a bus doesn't complete its trip, but these are real-time information. Everything's being tracked, so it's based on what is actually happening, and you can see that bus coming down the street. There are some times when a bus is directed by the control center not to complete a trip because, for instance, maybe it's running so late that the next bus is 2 or 3 minutes behind it. There might be times when a street is blocked. There might be times when there's an obstacle along the route that prevents us from delivering service as planned. Those kind of interruptions are what we would report through the customer alerts process, because they're verbal things that we'd have to explain to somebody. You know, I'll give an example that is actually on Route 51 for me, because I was traveling to Lakeside Gardens one time. It was in the winter. The street was very narrow. There was a truck parked. The bus could not get by. Eventually, the bus got by with about 2 millimeters clearance with, I think the operator went out and moved the mirror on the truck, but we were there for quite some minutes because there was just no way through. Anything like that could only be reported in retrospect because it didn't happen until it happened, right? So our control center would be able to alert our customer service staff, who would say the trip that would normally be leaving Lakeside Gardens at such and such a time is delayed. Now, future buses are also delayed from going into this area because we're trying to maintain service on the rest of the route. But that's just one example of what could happen. But Laurier has more specific information about the technology and how that would report, especially on Route 51.
So we provide predictions on the assumption that the bus will follow the programmed route for the trip. So if it skips a section of the route, it technically goes off route, and the data won't match up, and you won't be provided predictions. It would, I think, disappear from the feed at that point. Oh, yes, and sorry, of course. Route 51, there is a known issue for that route because of the way it loops around Lincoln Field Station. We know that there's a data problem there that we're working to fix.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear you're working on it. But it would, I'd like to be able to know that if something like that happened, if somehow they're waiting there, and what information they would get if the driver, was behind and didn't go through the village. That was my concern. Anyway, it's obviously been a problem, and I know you're aware of it. So I appreciate working on it, but it's just one of those things I'm just figuring out how would that be reported?
Mr. Chair, perhaps I could just reiterate a point that was in the presentation, that the conversion to GTFS real time allows the alerts flow coming out of our customer service representatives to be merged with the open data flow, which is coming out of computers, into one feed that's going straight to the developers and to the web page. And that will allow developers to more easily publish text messages, text alerts, along with the computed prediction times. And so it makes it easier for the app developers to present both kinds of information in their product.
Okay, thank you.
Message would be what the customer would get if that part, what would it say?
It would depend on what was reported from the operator to the controller. The controller entered it into their system, and what the customer service representative understood and could communicate. So it could take some minutes for that situation to be properly understood. If there was something like but we see it every day. There might be a more frequent example than Route 51 would be, there is police activity on Queen Street between such and such and such and such. All buses are diverting via Albert. So that information will get pushed out through our alert channels. But because it's not automated information, the automatic predictions are going to be thrown off, as Ravi is describing.
Okay, so it will come through another source. Okay, thank you, and appreciate again the work on this. Thank you.
Councillor Lowe.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to start by, if I may, kind of helping out Councillor Kavanaugh a little bit. I think her question was about the 51, specifically at Howe and Britannia. And every trip going westbound towards Britannia goes through the village, except 5 or 6 weekday morning trips, which go through the village going eastbound. And I think what she's trying to get at is that some operators might be overlooking that in their schedules, in their time point, and then therefore turning right from Britannia onto Howe. And because that's still en route technically, because that's the rest of the route, it doesn't show as a missed trip or a cancellation or anything for the people in the village. So I'm going to start by giving you that as a takeaway, maybe something to communicate with operators so that they don't, they don't miss that little bit of the schedule. So now my question, in previous cases where we've had extreme delays on the transit system, like 30, 45 minutes or plus, sometimes a bus would sign onto its next route inadvertently. This was, I think, a bigger problem when we had the Transaway downtown, but so I don't know if this is still much of an issue now or if it's been corrected since, but would that actually, so I guess my first question is, has that problem been resolved, or is that still something that happens when a bus is very late?
Thank you for the question, Chair. So there is a limit on sort of how long a bus can take before it completes its trip. The system has intelligence to say, okay, you're very, very, very late. This is likely not happening. And so there are adjustments that the system makes. We do know that during very difficult service days, snowstorms, lots of stuck buses and so on, I guess the system response is not optimal. So we are looking at that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, because sometimes you get a bus on a different route, but it travels the same road, and that might actually confuse some customers. So yeah, if that could be looked into, especially as we improve our technology, that's something that I think can certainly be improved, assuming it hasn't been. So thank you.
Okay, and Councillor Leeper.
Thanks. With respect to transit and a relationship with some of the app providers, I'm concerned that as we de-emphasize some of our own apps and move into partnerships with third-party app providers, that we might run the risk of vendor lock-in. Are we being cognizant to make sure that we always own our data, that we always have the ability to launch our own apps, and that we're not going too far down the path of relying on a third party?
Mr. Chair, yes, absolutely. We're moving away from our current own data feed to use industry standard GTFS real time, which is what all the apps use. There's no customized information to feed any apps directly. This is all being published in a standard format that's used across the industry. By the time we switch to our current situation, by contrast, is that only apps which have coded up how to use Ottawa data will work in Ottawa. By switching over to industry standard data feed format, every app that reports transit information anywhere in the world will work in Ottawa.
Okay, that's encouraging. With respect to the predictions,
or I should say can work in Ottawa, they may need to activate it in their own system, right?
Okay. With respect to the predictions, are those always coming from OC Transpo? Are we doing our own big data AI predictions, or will customers have the option sometimes to use apps that may be applying their own logic to what's going on out there to provide potentially better predictions?
Chair, so currently the prediction engine is one of our systems that we hold. We publish bus location data and arrival predictions through the feed for apps to use. Whether some apps have adjusted feeds or sort of intelligent, adjustments to that is outside of our scope, I guess. But, it's a fairly, I guess, it's computationally complicated algorithm that computes these predictions. So it is in-house, and it's a system that we maintain.
Okay, are we taking advantage of our partnership with Waze to understand real-time traffic, for example, to adjust our predictions?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Are we using some of the data, which I think we're getting from Waze, our partnership with Waze, to adjust the real-time information,
No.
the predictions?
So currently we don't. We don't have traffic data integrated into the system. That's something we would have to take away and look at.
But we do use traffic data to help plan the schedules on which the buses are meant to be running. So it's not being used day to day or minute to minute, but it is being used monthly and seasonally. As we plan how the trip should leave at 11:01 and get there at 11:43, that we're using data from all kinds of places, primarily from historical bus data, but from other sources as well. Once the bus is moving, the predictions are all coming out of the Clever CAD system.
Okay. Sorry, I just lost it. Wilson? So another question, multimodal travel. So some apps give the option of providing, okay, here's how you could make this trip using a variety of travel modes other than the bus or the public transit. Is that something that we're going to rely on third parties to do, or do we have any sort of internal capacity to try to provide functionality for our own apps, et cetera? I'm thinking, for example, once stage 2 opens, a lot of places that are within a kilometer or two of our rapid transit stations are going to, be easily reached by bringing your bike on the train. Are we working on multimodal, or is that really the third parties who are going to provide that functionality?
Mr. Chair, we are not currently working on that. We're reporting on the predicted arrival time of our next bus. For other questions like how long does it take to get from here to there, what's your alternatives to get from here to there, options like the Google Maps, Apple Maps here give customers that, or give everyone that example, that function already. What we will be able to help them to do as they provide information to their users is that they will now have access to the real-time transit information from the GTFS real-time feed, so that they, right now, if I went to Google Maps in Ottawa, it would say, this bus is scheduled to take you there at this time, or you could bike, or you could walk, or you could drive, or you could call a car service. If I go to a city that uses GTFS real time, it will say, well, right now that bus is coming in 3 minutes, or you can call a car, or you can drive, or you can walk, or you can cycle. So we'll get to that stage next year once we have the GTFS real time feed, because Google, Apple here, and anyone else will be able to collect that data and interpret it and publish it as they do.
Thanks. And I just remembered the question I lost, which is the prediction times that OC Transpo is generating on the basis of its AI. How close do we have a measure of how close we're achieving those prediction times? Like, I assume that the prediction times are constantly getting better as the AI does its work. But is there a number that you can give us about how close the prediction times are?
Thank you for the question, Chair. One of the things that we're looking for is the punctuality. So to be able to measure that punctuality, I needed to be able to deliver the number of trips that I promised. So we were very, very close to achieve that goal. And after that, we'll concentrate on the punctuality. However, we know with the TOCC and with Pat's teams, sometimes we know that we are a lot of routes that stuck, trips that stuck on the traffic, and Pat can have some time to make sure that we follow the schedule. So in a nutshell, we'll come back with the punctuality after the service delivery achieved.
Okay. Okay.
Thanks, Chair. Okay, I have some quick, mostly rapid fire questions. Carrie Glines Elliott asked about Paratranspo and about any kind of similar arrival prediction capabilities. Is that in the works or available now?
That's all available. That's been available for, I think it's over a year now in the My Paratranspo online solution. It shows the location of every Paratranspo vehicle as it's approaching the customer's location.
Okay. She also asked about anything in the platforms or in development to make it easier to report problems in real time. I'm assuming like if you saw maintenance needed at a station or any kind of quick feedback to OC Transpo.
We've got good links in the webpage right now to provide that information. We've got the 2 new Twitter accounts, which have been up and running for a couple of weeks now. We've got very quick response, as you saw, for anyone who phones in. We've also got on the website for security issues. We've got the online reporting, which has been available for a few years. If there's anything, it might be making these contact points more visible on the web page, but comes at a cost of putting it ahead of something else. So there's a lot of ways now, and if there's a particular origin that somebody has a suggestion for us, we're happy to consider that too.
Okay, thank you. The first stop predictions is really, really important. If we can get that right, it's a major enhancement for customers. Can you give us some realistic expectations? Are we going to see a vast improvement on that in this calendar year, or will it be later on in the rollout of some of the new technology?
So thanks for the question, Chair. I don't have a sense of a detailed plan or timeline. It's going to be rolled into a lot of the other work that we're doing. So it will be within the 18-month timeline of the project.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just don't want to make sure people are leaving the room today thinking in this summer, all of a sudden, there'll be accurate first stop predictions, because it's going to take some time. Okay. The relationship with transit, building on some of Councillor Leeper's questions, they've done some really interesting things. Like in the pandemic, they were doing surveys of app users about how many people in the bus were wearing a mask. And coming out of the pandemic, they've done surveys of users on their app about how crowded is your bus. Do they share that information back? Or I guess, obviously, they're using our open data. Does it go the other way too? Do they provide that kind of information or any kind of data back to OC Transpo?
Thanks for the question, Chair. So with this new collaboration, we will be receiving that data, and we can adjust our system and our decisions based on what we receive back. So transit does collect, rate my ride. There's is the bus crowded? Was the snow well cleared at my bus stop? So on. So we will be getting that back, which is one of the big advantages of the partnership.
That is super. Yeah, this is actually, I was really glad to see in the transportation master plan policies that we approved a couple weeks ago, there was new and clearer language around open data and around recognizing all of the technology and apps and all the development being done in the area of transportation, and how we want to foster as much openness and sharing as possible to foster that innovation. Some of you may be aware there's a large technology sector in Canada North. Yes. I was at an event that Councillor Curry, Vice Chair Curry spoke at about a month or two ago, their Tech Tuesdays, and a developer followed me out the door because he wanted to ask me about some of the OC Transpo data and about improvements. And I said, we're going to be getting an update this spring, watch for that. But there's a lot of excitement and a lot of ideas on how this data could be used. And there's some innovation being done by transit, by Google, by Waze. We really have no idea with AI, the possibilities that might be out there for people with a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of creativity and access to this data. And the data we have is already so impactful to riders when they can reliably predict when their bus is going to come or how to make the right connections. So I'm really looking forward to what OC Transpo is doing in this area, and how other developers and other even sometimes hobbyists, how they're able to build on this to help us all provide a better transit experience. So really appreciate the update today and looking forward to what comes next. Thank you. Is this report received? Received. Thank you. We have no in-camera items today. There's an IPD on the agenda about use of delegated authority during 2022. Are there any notices of motion? Okay, any inquiries today? Seeing none. Other business. I know, Councillor Lowe, you wanted to give a quick update on the Saskatoon trip.
Yeah, just a very quick update. One, the biggest lesson I learned is to not book a flight with a 34-minute connection. The second, so yeah, I was at the CUDA conference in Saskatoon over the last week, where transit agency staff, board members, so that includes councillors, commissioners, and those involved in the industry from across the country, kind of got together to discuss various things like sustainability, technology, how we measure success in transit, integrating our mobility, and also the topic of equity, truth, and reconciliation. There were a lot of people from Montreal who made very positive mention of Madame Amilcar. So we are very positive to, we are very lucky to have you here. One of the biggest takeaways, though, was actually the similar issues that a lot of systems of a similar size are facing across the country, Toronto, Edmonton, Calgary, among others. But another, I guess, devastating fact for us is that there are also several smaller systems across the country that have reached 100 or 110% of pre-COVID ridership. But these are primarily industrial cities with a very non-office ridership base. There are some initiatives staff and other systems are exploring to kind of help fill this ridership gap that we're all experiencing. And one of the bigger topics that was also discussed was also the links between public transit and housing, service equity in neighborhoods, and how transit lands and properties can be leveraged to promote a lot of TOD. And CUDA will actually be leading on this going forward, including advocating additional items to be eligible as part of the Permanent Transit Fund, which is coming in the next 3-ish years, I believe. There will be a full report as part of council funding my trip. There will be a full report coming to council in 2 weeks, but that expands on a lot of this. So looking forward to submitting that in a bit.
Super. Thank you. We'll look forward to that. All right, then. Our next meeting is June 29th, and we are adjourned.